Chapter 667. Such a surging power, how strong is it? Sun Hao clenched his fists excitedly. He looked at the starry sky ahead and raised the corner of his mouth. Rise for me. Along with his voice, whoosh, in the void of the universe, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Waves of 10-colored light rushed up from the huge 10-colored light ball in the center of the universe and quickly condensed. Under Sun Hao's control, a star slowly condensed and burst out with bright light. With a star, there needs to be a planet. Thinking like this, Sun Hao once again called the power on the 10-colored light ball and condensed dozens of planets. Each of them was rapidly evolving into a life planet. Looking at this scene, Sun Hao secretly nodded. I can condense a planet now with a wave of my hand. This holy venerable realm is really not ordinary. But, speaking of this, Sun Hao's figure flashed and came to the front of the 10-colored light ball. This ball of light had been in his soul space ever since it had been born. The rest of the power he used was obtained from it. No matter how he used it, it seemed endless and could not be used up at all. What the hell is this thing? How did it appear? Sun Hao muttered to himself, showing a thoughtful look. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't think of any reason. Forget it, don't worry about it first. Let's see how their cultivation is going? Thinking like this, Sun Hao moved his mind and returned to the main hall again. He saw everyone sitting cross-legged on the ground, still in the midst of cultivation. There was still 90% of the power of faith in the main hall. It seems that the cultivation will not be finished in a short time. I'll go back first and see how Shuang and the others are doing. With a thought, his consciousness returned to his body. Sun Hao stood up and was about to walk out of the coiling dragon cave. Master! At this moment, a thin man ran in quickly. What's wrong? Sun Hao asked. Master, Shuang asked me to tell you that they led Shueba to Gumu village. Please go and support quickly. If it's too late, I'm afraid it will be too late, the thin man said. Gumu village? The corner of Sun Hao's mouth raised, without the slightest worry on his face. The rune formation of Gumu village was extremely complicated, and basically no one could break it. If one wanted to break it by force, they would have to reach the 9th level of Holy Venerable. Otherwise, there really wouldn't be a chance. Okay, I got it. You can go now. Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth, stepped out, and instantly disappeared in place. Outside Gumu village, Shueba and the 8 holy spirits were crazily injecting energy into the holy eye. Buzz, the omnipotent saint eye lit up with bursts of light. A terrifying power surged out from the holy eyes of transcendence, erupting with a power that could destroy heaven and earth. Shueba gritted his teeth, the veins on his face bulging. He crazily squeezed every bit of power in his body and poured it into the omnipotent saint eye. As he infused his power, the light above the omnipotent sacred eye became brighter and brighter. A terrifying power spread out from the omnipotent saint eye. Buzz, the formation distorted from time to time, as if it was about to collapse. Seeing this, Shueba's eyes lit up. He roared with all his might, "It's not enough. Use your full strength for this seat." The eagle-nosed man and the others no longer dared to be perfunctory and used their full strength. Buzz, above the omnipotent sacred eye, a dazzling light illuminated the entire world, making people unable to open their eyes. The terrifying power was getting stronger and stronger. If only I could. At that time, I can capture the Tao Ancestor. With that thought, Shueba felt that his whole body was full of power. He let out a roar. The blood and chi in his body surged from his hands and quickly poured into the omnipotent sacred eye. I will soon be able to exert 1% of the power of the omnipotent sacred eye. Rise for me. Shueba roared loudly. Following his roar, Kacha, a sound like an eggshell cracking sounded. Under the pressure of the omnipotent sacred eye, cracks appeared on the large formation and rapidly spread outwards. Boom! With a loud explosion, a layer of protective cover directly collapsed. Go! Shweba waved his right hand, and the omnipotent sacred eye turned into a rapid speed, quickly blasting the large formation. Boom! The sky fell and the earth cracked. The rune large formation directly collapsed. At this moment, all the people of Gumu village appeared in front of Shweba. Seeing this, Shweba's eyes lit up. His whole body seemed to have lost its strength and collapsed. After putting away the space pearl, he struggled for a long time before standing up. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows, and his eyes were full of light. In Gumu village, an endless amount of sacred chi filled the entire village. Sacred chi? So much? How is this possible? Shweba stood rooted to the ground, unable to recover for a moment. This unimaginable scene was simply indescribable. To be able to see so much sacred chi, was this a sign that he was going to be rich? Who are you? Why do you want to break the village's large formation? Qing Mu walked forward, looking at Shweba cautiously. This voice brought Shweba back to his senses. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he looked at Qing Mu calmly. It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that this village belongs to me from now on. Also, I don't want to kill indiscriminately. If you know what's good for you, hand over the Tao Ancestor. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Shweba's voice was cold. Haha! Qing Mu looked up to the sky and laughed. After a while, he stopped laughing, and a determined look appeared on his face. If Gumu village doesn't have it, if we want our lives, we have it. This is what young master left for us. No one can take it away from us. Since you know about the Tao Ancestor, I advise you to leave. Otherwise, when the Tao Ancestor comes, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your life. Qing Mu said. Shweba was startled, and his face was filled with shock. Then, the corner of his mouth curled up. If this was in the past, I would have run away immediately upon seeing the Tao Ancestor. But now, the Tao Ancestor is heavily injured, he's no match for me. If you know what's good for you, hand him over. Otherwise, I will start a massacre. Hearing this, Qing Mu and the rest were stunned. Young master is injured? When did this happen? There's someone in this world who can injure young master. How is this possible? Qing Mu shook his head, unwilling to believe Shweba's words. Young master, are you all right? Tears welled up in Qing Ru's eyes. Everyone, prepare to fight to the death. Qing Mu's roar woke everyone in Gumu village up. Phew, a reply shook the heavens. Everyone revealed a look of fearlessness as they took out their weapons and stood neatly together. They looked like a well-trained army. Seeing this, the corner of Shweba's mouth curled up. His face revealed a look of indifference. You don't even have a Holy Spirit, yet you dare to struggle? I will show you that in front of absolute power, any struggle is futile. Then, Shweba dodged and pounced towards Qing Mu and the rest. Chapter 668. Let's go. The red-haired man gave the other 7 Holy Spirits a look and nodded. They were extremely fast, catching up to Shweba in no time. Sensing the scene behind him, the corner of Shweba's mouth rose, secretly pleased. These guys get excited when it comes to killing. Really? Shweba shook his head, smiling. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows, his expression changed. Just as he was about to escape, it was too late. Boom! Boom! 8 explosions directly exploded on Shweba's body. This sudden attack made Shweba's blood boil. His body bounced on the ground, only stopping after a long time. This scene caused Greenwood and the others to be completely dumbfounded. What's going on? They're killing each other? No way, I don't understand. Let's not bother, wait until they're both injured, then we'll make our move. Greenwood gave the order, causing everyone to stop. They looked at Shweba as if they were watching a show. Shweba struggled to get up, looking at the red-haired man and the others with a confused face. Red-haired, are you guys preparing to rebel? Shweba suppressed the anger in his heart and roared. However, The 8 guardian spirits did not pay attention to him, instead, they all used their ultimate moves, once again attacking Xueba. Boom, the earth shook, the sky shook, the loud noises continued. The air was constantly breaking, space turbulence was flying everywhere. The entire earth was buzzing and trembling. If it weren't for the high density of matter in the heavenly realm, the attack just now would have already shattered it into pieces. Boom, Xueba was knocked around in the center of the explosion, his whole body was bruised, and the pain was unbearable. Dust flew into the sky, covering Xueba's body, disappearing without a trace. The 8 holy spirits stared blankly at this scene, their eyes unmoving. Everyone's face revealed a serious expression. The dust gradually dissipated, the surroundings returned to normal. The 8 holy spirits looked at this scene, secretly sighing in relief. There's no trace? Looks like he's dead. He's still not dead? We all used our ultimate moves at the same time, and it wasn't easy to use them. No matter how powerful Xueba is, how can he defend? Finally defended, this should be the master's test, right? Needless to say, I just don't know what kind of unexpected benefit the master gave us. I'm looking forward to it. The 8 of them muttered to themselves, their faces full of joy. Suddenly, Katja, the sound of joints cracking could be heard. Everyone squinted their eyes to take a look, and their scalps went numb as they broke out in cold sweat. They saw. Amidst the dust, Xueba twisted his neck and clenched his fists. Anger was written all over his face. Master! You all actually betrayed me. Today, I'm going to go on a killing spree. I'll start with you. After saying that, Blood Tyrant stomped his right leg and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the 8 holy spirits. At this moment, the 8 of them had used up all their energy and were unable to react at all. He could only watch helplessly as Blood Tyrant attacked. Boom! Boom! 8 loud bangs shook heaven and earth. The 8 of them crashed heavily into the ground and bounced up continuously. It took a long time before his body came to a stop. Pooh! After struggling for a moment, fresh blood spurted out of his mouth. His face was deathly pale, and he looked extremely miserable. One strike, and he was heavily injured. There's no way to make up for the gap in cultivation. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a disaster this time. I really hope that the master will come soon, so that Gumu village will be safe. The 8 of them muttered to themselves with a peaceful look on their faces. Do you have anything to say? Blood Tyrant looked at the 8 holy spirits and said, Blood Tyrant, don't be too proud. The master will be here soon. At that time, you won't even have time to escape. Kill us, the master will resurrect us. The 8 of them looked at Blood Tyrant without the slightest fear. If that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Blood Tyrant gathered his strength and blasted down at the 8 holy spirits. It looked like the 8 of them were about to be blasted into dust. At this moment, bang, a barrier appeared out of thin air on the 8 holy spirits. Blood Tyrant's body flew out, and it took him a long time to stabilize his body. Looking up, Blood Tyrant's pupils shrank and his face changed slightly. He saw. In front of the 8 holy spirits, a man in white was standing there. He had his hands behind his back and was calmly looking at Blood Tyrant. Although he did not release the pressure, the feeling of being unable to resist surged through his body. Facing him was like facing Xuechuxiang. No, it was 10 times more terrifying, 100 times. It was simply incomparable. He is the Tao Ancestor? At this moment, Blood Tyrant's heart could not produce the slightest resistance. This feeling was like a firefly facing the sun. There was no comparison at all. Tao Master, I am willing to surrender to you. As soon as these words came out, the whole scene was dead silent. Everyone's eyes widened, revealing a look of disbelief. What the fuck, he surrendered just like that. We haven't even started fighting yet. Is there still a need to fight? The young master's strength is all-powerful, how can he be his opponent? This guy still has some self-awareness, otherwise, with the young master's personality, his soul will definitely fly away. Look, there is an indescribable surging power in the young master's body, surging all over his body. It's terrifying, the young master has become a lot stronger. Everyone muttered to themselves, their eyes fixed on Sun Hao. The light of worship kept flashing. At this moment, Sun Hao was also slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, Blood Tyrant, this guy, directly recognized himself as his master. This speed was a little faster than him. He was just about to say this. It seemed that he had a good eye. Tao Ancestor, this little one has a condition. Please agree to it. Otherwise, I, Blood Tyrant, would rather die than obey. Blood Tyrant's face showed a firm expression. As soon as these words came out, it was like a thunderclap, shocking everyone's mind. This guy doesn't want to live? He even dares to make conditions with the young master. Soon, blood will be splashed 3 feet, and his head will burst. Exclamations kept ringing. Hearing these voices, Blood Tyrant's body trembled, and his back was cold. However, the words had been spoken, and he could only brace himself and wait. Waiting for the moment when Sun Hao slapped him into flying ashes. Conditions? What conditions? The voice was very light, but the anger was contained in it. Blood Tyrant's body trembled and knelt in front of Sun Hao. Tao Ancestor, I want to learn formations from you, please accept me as a disciple. Speaking of this, Blood Tyrant kept kowtowing to Sun Hao. Dong. One after another, there was no intention of stopping at all. Worship this seat as a master? That also depends on whether you have this qualification. A quarter of an hour or so, break this formation. This seat will seriously consider what you said. After speaking, Sun Hao waved his right hand. An extremely simple formation condensed and formed in his hand. In an instant it enveloped Blood Tyrant. Blood Tyrant's figure instantly disappeared in place. Chapter 669. The formation that Sun Hao arranged was extremely simple. However, this was for Sun Hao. To other formation masters, it was not easy at all. If Shueba could break this formation, it meant that his talent in formations was not bad and he was worth cultivating. This formation is too complicated. The Tao Ancestor's test is indeed not simple. Shueba released his divine sense and enveloped the array. Every rune in this formation is interlinked with each other. It's perfect and there's not a single flaw to be found. This formation doesn't have a formation core. There's no way to break it. What should we do? Tiny beads of sweat appeared on Shueba's forehead. Could it be that he had to use force to break the spell? Could she pass the young master's test like this? No, absolutely not. There must be a formation core. I didn't find it. Tiny beads of sweat appeared on Shueba's forehead. He became more and more anxious. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows as if he had thought of something. Bang! He pointed at the center of his brows and tapped it. Gotcha! It wasn't the sound of a skull cracking, but the sound of a formation cracking. The array binding Shueba's body instantly shattered. Shueba stood rooted to the ground, his entire body trembling with excitement. He stared blankly at Sun Hao, waiting for Sun Hao to speak. It's only been 5 breaths of time and he's already broken through. It looks like this kid has some talent. Sun Hao looked at Shueba and nodded secretly. Tao Ancestor, how was it? Did I pass the test? Shueba asked. You can pass, but you're not good enough to recognize me as your master. In a few days I will arrange a few tests. If you can pass all of them, you will be my disciple. Sun Hao said. Disciple pays respect to master. Shueba knelt in front of Sun Hao and kept kowtowing. When Sun Hao heard this, he looked startled. This fellow was too shameless. He hadn't even agreed to it yet, and the other party had already acknowledged him as his master. Forget it. Sun Hao was too lazy to pay attention to him, and waved his right hand. A surge of power flowed into the bodies of the 8 sacred spirits. Their injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Greetings, Master." The 8 people saluted Sun Hao with cupped fists. "Don't stand on ceremony." Sun Hao took a step and appeared in front of Qing Mu and the others. "Greetings, young Master." Under Greenwood's leadership, everyone knelt down. After they got up, they all looked at Sun Hao with excitement. "How is your cultivation going?" Sun Hao asked. "Gongzi, take a look. I've reached Saint Level 5. Qingru walked up and said excitedly. "Mister, even the weakest among them has reached God Emperor Realm. The strongest among them has reached Level 5 Saint Realm. That would be Xiaoru. Her innate talent is the strongest." "That's right, there are also tens of thousands of villagers from other villages. Many of them have reached the Saint Realm," Greenwood introduced. "Not bad." Sun Hao nodded slightly. He stared at Yu Meng. "How is it?" "Thanks to you, I have reached the 4th level of the Saint Realm." Yu Meng's face was full of joy. "Young Master." Qingru wanted to say something but hesitated, as if she had something to say. "Xiaoru, don't be reserved. If you have something to say, just say it," Sun Hao said. "Young Master, are you going to the 33 levels of heaven?" Qingru asked. "Yes." Sun Hao nodded slightly. "Young Master, then you must have a big battle. You see, my strength has also reached the Saint Realm. Let me help you," Qingru said. "And us." Behind Greenwood, the villagers stood up one after another. Their voices resounded through the world. Everyone's face showed a duty-bound look. "Young Master's kindness to us will never be forgotten. It is our supreme honor to be able to fight for young Master." "That's right. In just a few days, I have broken through several realms. All of this is thanks to young Master." "That's right. Anyway, no matter what, even if I die, I will participate." Each and every one of them was extremely excited. "Lord, I want to participate too. Master, count me in on this." Shueba and the others also stood up and surrounded Sun Hao. At this moment, Sun Hao became the focus of everyone's eyes. Sun Hao sighed slightly when he saw everyone's expression. "This battle is no small matter. Your strength is far from enough. When you reach the Saint Spirit Realm, it's not too late to fight with me." Sun Hao's voice was cold, without any room for negotiation. "What? The Saint Realm is not enough, and you still need the Saint Spirit Realm? Why is young Master's requirement so high? Is young Master going to bring 9 people to fight?" "Young Master, there are too few people, you can't handle it. Young Master, please, take me with you." In the face of everyone's shouts, Sun Hao turned a deaf ear. He stared at Shueba and the others. "As for you, you have all reached the Saint Spirit Realm, but you still have to work hard to cultivate. By the way, I said that I will give you a good fortune. What realm you can reach depends on you. Sit down cross-legged," Sun Hao said. "Master, including me?" Shueba pointed to himself with a face of disbelief. "Hurry up!" Sun Hao snorted coldly. "Yes, Master." Shueba hurriedly sat down cross-legged, showing an excited expression. Zheng, the sound of the zither sounded, and the surrounding 10-colored saint energy, under Sun Hao's control, quickly wrapped around the 9 people. Their strength grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. Kacha, the sound of the realm membrane breaking kept ringing. However, this did not stop, as if it had just begun. Such a scene appeared in front of Qing Mu and the others, revealing an uncontrollable expression of envy. "Young Master is too powerful. He has reached the 5th level of the Saint Spirit Realm, and he still hasn't stopped. My God, young Master is worthy of being a Tao ancestor. If I didn't see this with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Open my eyes, finally open my eyes. I didn't believe what you said before, but now that I see it, I know that my worldview has been broken." Exclamations kept ringing. Everyone's eyes were focused on Sun Hao. The light of worship swept over in waves. A few hours later, Haha, I, Shweba, have broken through, I reached the 8th level of the Saint Spirit realm. I ask who else in the world today? Haha, I have also reached the 8th level of the Saint Spirit realm. Shweba, aren't you awesome? Let's fight. The eagle-nosed man looked at Shweba and said. As soon as he said this, he regretted it. Because Shweba's strength had reached the Saint Venerable realm. It was not a problem to fight 10 of him. You want to fight, right? Come on. Shweba said. Brother Shweba, you heard wrong. You are a Saint Venerable. I am a Saint Spirit. How can I fight with you? The eagle-nosed man said. Heard wrong, you all heard wrong? Shweba said. We didn't hear wrong, he wants to fight with you. You are all traitors. The eagle-nosed man pointed at them one by one, showing a look of resentment. Chapter 670. Young Master, suddenly, Sun Hao heard Wenrincher's voice. Hearing this, Sun Hao looked startled. Is everything ready? Young Master, everything is ready, ready to go at any time. Wenrincher said. Then introduce. Young Master, this time the army is extremely enthusiastic. In less than half a day, hundreds of millions of troops have been gathered, and everyone has reached the Holy Spirit realm according to your requirements. Behind, there are countless people who want to join the army. There are too many people, and I didn't agree. Let them wait for another chance. This army is divided into 10 legions, commanded by Xue Mei, Su Yiling, Mu Bing, Ning Mingji. Each legion is further divided into 100 divisions, and each division has 100,000 soldiers. When Sun Hao heard this, he was shocked. The concept of hundreds of millions of troops was unimaginable. It only took one army to shock people in place. You choose an army, 100,000 people to follow me. And your leaders leave half and the others follow me. How to do it is up to you. Sun Hao said. Young Master, it has already been arranged, waiting for you to let us out. Wenrincher's words directly stunned Sun Hao in place. Do you know me so well? Sun Hao asked. Young Master, it's not that I know you, but there are too many people in the army of hundreds of millions. It's just right for 100,000 people to follow you. As for the leaders around you, of course, it can't be everyone. This world naturally needs someone to take care of it. Wenrincher's words made Sun Hao nod again and again. Okay, I'll let you out now. After speaking, Sun Hao's mind moved. Buzz, a teleportation channel appeared directly in front of Sun Hao. Then, Wenrincher walked out first. Greetings, young master. After Wenrincher came out, he bowed deeply to Sun Hao. The moment they saw Wenrincher, everyone looked stagnant. What? Holy venerable powerhouse? So respectful to the young master, my god. Shweba was also stunned in place, staring at Wenrincher. His aura is much stronger than mine. His strength is far above me, and I am not his opponent with one finger. At this point, Shweba secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Luckily, there's only one person. Otherwise, would I still have any status in front of the young master? Just as he finished speaking. Buzz, there was another tremor. Xue Mei walked out of the ripples. Holy venerables, their auras are even more terrifying. This woman is definitely a peak expert. Shweba stood rooted to the ground, unable to calm down for a long time. There shouldn't be anyone else, right? However, hiss, another rumbling sound rang out. One figure after another appeared in front of Sun Hao. Mu Bing, Su Yiling, Xianyuan Shi, Zhongli Lang, all of them were familiar faces. All of them had reached the holy venerate realm. Surging power surged through their bodies. Even if he didn't release his aura, Shweba could feel his blood surging and his heart pounding. His face turned even uglier. There are so many holy venerates. Heavens! As expected of a Tao ancestor. Even his subordinates are so powerful. Before this group of holy venerates, I can only be considered a piece of trash. Shweba's expression was dispirited and extremely unsightly. However, this did not stop. Buzz, in front of the sky, layers of ripples shook rapidly. Armored guards dressed in silver armor and holding long spears rushed out quickly. Their movements were neat and well-trained. They looked incomparably mighty. In the blink of an eye, they covered the world like a divine army. The aura of the Holy Spirit realm emanated from them, like the Milky Way pouring down, sprinkling all over the world. Everyone stared blankly at this scene, dumbfounded. That dumbfounded appearance was indescribable in words. Mu Bing waved her hand. "Greetings, young master." The neat voice resounded through the world. Everyone knelt down at the same time, and the sound of armor colliding was extremely neat. "No need to be polite," Sun Hao said faintly. "Thank you, young master." This army all stood up and looked at Sun Hao with an excited face. "That's young master, I finally saw Haotian Emperor. I'm so lucky that I can actually see young master." Everyone's heart was hit hard by a tsunami. Excitement surged to everyone's heart. But their faces did not change at all. There was only majesty and murderous aura. Among these people, many of them had military accomplishments, and with a little training, they could reach this realm. In addition, their realm was extremely high, and they could keep up with everyone's pace with a sweep of their divine senses. The neat and uniform movements were exactly the same. Tens of thousands of people in Gumu village stared at this scene blankly, and it took a long time for them to recover. Hiss, the sound of gasping came one after another. Everything that had happened today had truly widened their horizons. "My ancestors, the army summoned by the young master, the weakest strength is the Holy Spirit. My God, the strongest army of the Heavenly Emperor is far from comparable, right? Isn't that obvious? This army will be invincible once they leave. I just wanted to be a member of the young master's army, but now it seems ridiculous. Yeah, now that I think about it, I blush for a while. Any one of them can wipe us out." "That's right, it really scared me to death." Exclamations kept ringing out. Qing Mu and the others stood in place, and the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. He opened his big mouth and said for a long time, but he didn't spit out a word. Then, his expression became dispirited, and he sighed secretly. Even Shueba and the others were stunned at this moment. "My God, I feel that in front of this army, I don't even have the power to fight back." The eagle-nosed man secretly wiped his cold sweat, shocked. "Power to fight back? In your dreams. There are countless ninth-layer Saint Spirit experts in this army. They can turn you into ashes with a single finger," said the red-haired man. "It seems that recognizing the Tao Ancestor as our master is the wisest choice." The eagle-nosed man said. "That's right." The few of them nodded in unison, staring blankly at all this. "Qing Mu, I will give you a place to cultivate, which is my soul space. If you want to become stronger, go in and cultivate." Sun Hao waved his right hand, and a teleportation vortex appeared in front of the people of Gumu village. "I'll do it." Qingru didn't hesitate and strode into the vortex, disappearing. From her anxious look, it could be seen how much she desired strength. "If you want to continue to become stronger, follow me." After Qing Mu finished speaking, he also strode into the teleportation vortex. "I must reach the Holy Spirit realm. I must work hard to cultivate." One by one, they strode forward and quickly drilled into the teleportation vortex, disappearing. P.S. This book will be finished at the end of the month. Ask for monthly tickets. Chapter 671. The Second Layer of the Heavenly Realm. Roar, howl, woo! In front of Sun Hao stood countless abyss monsters. Each one was baring their teeth and roaring again and again. The roar shook the heavens and the earth, causing them to buzz and tremble. Sun Hao looked at this scene, and his face did not change. Kill, with a light word, he sentenced these abyss monsters to death. Whoosh! The 100,000 army turned into a rainbow and went straight to the abyss monster army. Poochie, boom, boom, flesh and blood splattered, and the sound of explosions continued. In front of the 100,000 army, the abyss monsters were as weak as a piece of paper, simply vulnerable. "Eat my stick! Eat my six-eared stick!" Sun Wukong and the six-eared macaque rushed into the abyss monster army. He waved the stick in his hand and smashed it down fiercely. Boom! The earth cracked and the sky collapsed. The entire earth was torn apart layer by layer. With the stick as the center point, a spherical shock wave spread around. Boom! Wherever it went, all the abyss monsters collapsed into powder. Two terrifying mushroom clouds rushed straight to the height of 10,000 meters. The huge roar shook the world. Weak, too weak. Boring, too boring. Sun Wukong and the six-eared macaque muttered to themselves, jumped up, and rushed toward the abyss monster army in front again. And on the other side. "I'm so hungry." Su Yiling touched her stomach pitifully, showing a look of grievance. She didn't pay attention to the abyss monsters rushing up to her. "Hey, there's no way, I can only eat you. Go!" Su Yiling sighed secretly. Just after saying this, roar, behind her, a monster with monstrous blood energy floated. This monster was the famous vicious beast Taotai. Taotai opened its bloody mouth, covering the entire world. Huu, with a strong suction, countless abyss monsters flew out uncontrollably, and all of them went into Taotai's big mouth. Gotcha! There was a chewing sound. The flesh of these abyss monsters was ground to pieces, and even their souls were ground into incomparably pure soul power, which was absorbed by Taotai. In less than a moment, not a single abyssal monster remained within a radius of 100 miles. Phew! The Taotai phantom flew back again and fell into Su Yiling's body. "Aya, I'm still not full. We still have to eat." After speaking, Su Yiling took a step out and instantly disappeared in place. 1,000 miles away from Su Yiling. Boom! Boom! A deafening explosion resounded throughout the world. Hundreds of humanoid puppets that were tens of thousands of meters tall were advancing step by step. Each of the humanoid puppets glowed with a metallic luster, making them look like indestructible mechas. Boom! Every single step the humanoid puppet took caused the ground to crack, sending shockwaves into the surroundings. Everywhere it went, countless abyssal monsters were crushed into powder. Those 10-meter-tall abyssal monsters were as weak as ants in front of these humanoid puppets. He didn't even have the strength to fight. Shui Mei was standing on one of the human-shaped puppets with a smile on her face. "Thanks to the young master, my current puppetry technique has reached an unimaginable level." "Faster!" Shui Mei waved the scepter in her hand and pointed it forward. Buzz, above the scepter, a faint light was emitted, surging over the heads of each humanoid puppet. Tap tap, all the humanoid puppets took a step and fled quickly. Soon, they flowed down in the distance and disappeared cleanly. When the dust dissipated, what was left was only an endless flat ground. All the abyssal monsters disappeared. And scenes like this were staged throughout the scene. Whether it was the Holy Sage or the Holy Spirit, everyone had an invincible posture. Along the way, they fought to the nest of the abyssal monsters with the momentum of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. 100,000 troops surrounded the nest of the abyssal monsters. Howl! A roar sounded from the nest of the abyssal monsters. "Bullying too much. Do you really think my clan is easy to bully? Even if this seat dies, I will let you all perish here." An angry roar sounded from the monster's nest. Buzz! A very soft sound sounded. Hearing this sound, many people's faces changed slightly, and they secretly thought it was not good. "Not good, it is going to self-destruct. This is the self-destruction of the Holy Sage Powerhouse. What should we do?" "What are you afraid of? There is the young master, is it useful for him to self-destruct?" Exclamations sounded in the army of 100,000. Sun Hao turned a blind eye to the self-destruction of the abyss monster leader. He just calmly picked up the teacup and took a sip. The leader was about to burst apart. "I'm so hungry." A sound rang out. This sound made the abyssal monster leader's scalp explode, and cold sweat flowed. Looking up, he saw a Tautai phantom condensing in the sky. Opening its bloody mouth, it aimed at the abyssal monster leader and bit down. The speed was so fast that it had no time to react. Want to swallow this seat? Go to hell. The abyssal monster leader let out a roar. Its whole body burst apart. At the corner of its mouth, a smug smile was raised. The terrifying power burst apart in the blink of an eye. However, the power of these bursts was all swallowed by the Tautai phantom and disappeared. Burp, the Tautya's shadow burped, showing a satisfied look. It touched its huge belly, turned into a phantom, and drilled into Su Yiling's body. Kacha, the energy fed back by the Tautai phantom immediately made Su Yiling break through a realm. At this moment, she reached the 3rd level of the Holy Sage realm. Finally full, Su Yiling touched her round belly, showing a look of satisfaction. Her whole face was full of strange light. The army of 100,000 looked at Su Yiling, all shocked in place, showing a look of disbelief. Handsome Su is really powerful. The Holy Sage realm doesn't even have a chance to self-destruct in front of him. More than that, this is completely sent to Handsome Su. Look, Handsome Su broke through again. It is said that every martial is powerful and has extraordinary means. Now it seems that it is not false at all. Not only is his strength high, but his mind is also extraordinary. Otherwise, how can he command the army? Everyone muttered to themselves, staring at Su Yiling, their faces full of admiration. For this scene, Su Yiling didn't seem to notice. She flew to Sun Hao and smiled slightly. "Young master, how did I perform?" "Not bad." Sun Hao smiled and nodded. "Young master, when will I be able to eat your dishes?" "I haven't been here for a long time. I'm tired of eating these all the time," Su Yiling said. "When I reach the 33rd layer of heaven and win, I will treat everyone to a big meal. How about it?" Sun Hao's voice was leisurely, reaching everyone's ears. This sound was like the sound of nature, and the whole scene was in an uproar. Chapter 672. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. In the past 3 months, Sun Hao led 100,000 troops and directly fought to the 33rd layer of heaven. Each layer of heaven was occupied by the abyss monsters. However, in front of the army led by Sun Hao, there was no power to fight back at all. In this process, Sun Hao changed the army from time to hone. Now there were more than 30 armies that had been perfected, and Sun Hao had created a joint attack technique for them. After 100,000 people used it at the same time, the power directly skyrocketed 1,000,000 times compared to a single person. It was simply terrifying. Even if it was a 6th-level Holy Venerate powerhouse, if unprepared, would be smashed into powder by the joint attack technique of 100,000 troops. And this joint attack technique, through Wenrensher's efforts, has been promoted among hundreds of millions of troops. The leader, after more than 3 months of battle, not only had his strength skyrocketed, his control of power had also reached the level of perfection. It could be said that they were already battle-hardened generals. There was no fault to pick. "Young master, let me take people to test." Looking at the blood mist in front of him, Ning Mingji stepped forward and said, "No need to test, she is already waiting for us." Sun Hao looked ahead. His eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Just after he said this, ha-ha, bursts of laughter came from all directions, making people unable to distinguish the direction at all. "Dao Ancestor, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Why did you come now?" "Not bad, you actually reached the 9th level of the Holy Venerate realm. It seems that my cultivation was not in vain. Yo, the strength of your men is also not bad. Now, you should understand." The voice was full of pride and arrogance, just like a king who controlled everything. Sun Hao listened to these voices, his eyebrows twitching slightly. "Xue Chuxiang, you are talking about the heavenly slave blood ancestor, right?" Sun Hao said. As soon as these words came out, the voice in the blood mist temporarily stopped. That expression, she seemed to be surprised too. Ha ha! A burst of hearty laughter sounded. Not bad, not bad. Your cleverness is beyond my expectation. Since you can think that it is the power that I gave you, then you should know what will happen next, right? The voice of ridicule came from all directions. Sun Hao frowned and his face changed slightly. Could it be that the heavenly power that broke the seal on his body hid a mystery? Did he set up some kind of trap? Don't tell me that the heavenly energy is yours. Before he finished his words, Pooh! Sun Hao spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was pale. Such a scene directly scared the others to the spot, and their faces were full of shock. Young master. Just as they were about to run forward, they discovered that their bodies were imprisoned, unable to move. Break for me, old Sun. Sun Wukong roared furiously and frantically extracted his power, but he was unable to break free. Break. It was the same for the six-eared macaque. It was unable to break free. As for the others, they were all trapped on the spot and were unable to move. Everyone's faces were filled with anger and worry. Old witch, if you have the guts, let us go and fight to the death. What kind of man are you to use such a sinister move? Hearing the furious roars, a burst of hearty laughter came from the blood mist again. That kind of complacency was contained in it. Hearing this, one could not help but want to give him a few slaps. Sun Hao looked listless and fell softly on the chair. Few wisps of blood chi flew out of his mouth and quickly disappeared into the blood mist. Hee! A burst of strange laughter sounded. Good blood chi, worthy of being the flesh and blood of the Tao Ancestor. When I finish devouring, I can surpass his lord. At that time, who can be my opponent? Master, who do you think you are? Why should I listen to you? At that time, I will make you crawl in front of me and keep begging for mercy. Speaking of this, Xue Chuxiang laughed again. However, she stopped laughing, because she found a figure standing in front of her, looking at her with a smile on his face. This person was none other than Sun Hao. At this moment, Sun Hao no longer looked decadent. He looked refreshed and particularly energetic. How could you? Xue Chuxiang pointed at Sun Hao, and her voice was full of disbelief. Sun Hao smiled slightly. Do you mean the heavenly power? How could you solve it? Xue Chuxiang kept shaking her head with a look of disbelief. That is a kind of power that I have refined for thousands of years, and it was devoured by you. How could you not be controlled by me? Could it be that you have a higher level of power? Xue Chuxiang said. Yes. At the first moment, the power of faith in my body broke your heavenly power, Sun Hao said. What? How much is the power of faith? How many people believe in you? Xue Chuxiang asked. Trillions of billions, it is impossible to calculate, Sun Hao said lightly. Even so, I am not afraid of you. The lives of your subordinates are in my hands. If you know what is good for you, immediately surrender, and I can spare their lives. Xue Chuxiang was like a mad lion. As long as Sun Hao did not agree, she was afraid that she would give him a hard blow. Is that so? Sun Hao smiled slightly, stretched out his finger unhurriedly, and pointed forward. Kacha, the restraining power that bound everyone's body, was completely disintegrated. At this moment, everyone regained their freedom. This is impossible? Xue Chuxiang's eyes widened again, and she was shocked to the extreme. Her whole face was distorted. She pointed at Sun Hao. This great formation made of my 5 primordial holy treasures were all broken by you? You have 100 primordial holy treasures on you? Sun Hao smiled and shook his head, his face full of contempt. It is too easy to break your formation. First, your formation is full of loopholes, and I can find the loopholes with just a glance. Second, with your strength, you can at most exert 50% of the power of the primordial holy treasures. I only need 1 primordial holy treasure to suppress your 5 primordial holy treasures. After saying that, Sun Hao waved his right hand. Whoosh, in his hand, the chaos sacred pearl appeared in his hand. The dazzling light was more dazzling than the sun, making people unable to open their eyes. Xue Chuxiang looked at this scene and could not help but widen her eyes. She was so shocked that she could not calm down for a long time. You and I are in the same realm. How can you exert 50% of the power of the primordial holy treasures? This is impossible. You must have used some kind of illusion. Xue Chuxiang's heart seemed to have suffered a heavy blow, and her whole face was pale. That kind of unwillingness and disbelief could not be described in word. Even so what? Let's see how you deal with my army of 10 million. At this point, Xue Chuxiang looked up to the sky and roared as if she was crazy. The surrounding blood mist rushed up quickly, covering the whole world. Chapter 673. Whoosh! The blood mist shrouding everyone surged rapidly. It formed a bloodline that quickly darted in all directions. These bloodlines quickly piled up and formed red monsters up to 100 meters tall. Howl! Each red monster roared angrily, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. The cold light exposed made people's scalp tingle. Each of their strength had reached the Holy Spirit realm and was not weaker than Sun Hao's army of 100,000. However, the number of these monsters could not be calculated at all. At a glance, there was no end to them. Kill, following Xue Chuxiang's order, all the red monsters rushed toward the army of 100,000 like a torrent. Dao Ancestor, you didn't expect it, did you? They were all killed by you. You didn't expect that I could resurrect them. Now, no matter how many means you have, you can't help them. Because your opponent is me. Xue Chuxiang directly locked on to Sun Hao. As long as he made any move, she would burst out a thunderous attack. Help? Haha. Sun Hao smiled and shook his head. Do you think you need me to take action against these soft-legged beasts? As for my opponent, you are not qualified. His voice was not loud, but it was domineering. Whoosh! Sun Hao stretched out his hand and gently pointed at Xue Chuxiang. Blood-colored threads formed from Sun Hao's fingertips and quickly enveloped Xue Chuxiang's body. In just an instant, they entangled Xue Chuxiang. Xue Chuxiang's eyes widened with an expression of disbelief. In the next second, her scalp went numb, and a chill ran down her spine. Fear crawled all over her body like black ants in the sky. Xue Chuxiang was horrified to find that she could not break free even after exhausting her strength. These bloodlines seemed to be her own power, but they were controlled by Sun Hao. Moreover, they could seal her power. This was completely using her own power to seal her own power. How was this possible? How could there be such a heaven-defying technique in this world? They were both 9th-level holy venerables, but why was the gap so huge? Xue Chuxiang's face was full of unwillingness. I will let you see how fragile your soft-legged beasts are. Sun Hao pointed ahead and said calmly. Humph! Xue Chuxiang snorted coldly and stopped struggling. Her eyes were fixed on those red monsters, and the light in her eyes grew brighter and brighter. She saw. Thud! The endless red monsters were like a flood, rushing over from all directions. He charged straight at the army of 100,000. The 100,000 soldiers watched this scene without any fear on their faces. There was only the iron-blooded fighting spirit of a soldier. Now it's our turn. Prepare for battle. Kill! A loud roar resounded throughout the world. Phew! The army of 100,000 shouted at the same time. An orderly and imposing aura soared to the 9 heavens. They spread out and formed groups of 10, brandishing their spears in unison. Buzz! Space trembled, and the sun and moon lost their light. The entire sky darkened at this moment. Golden spears condensed in the sky. As far as the eye could see, they were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them all. Swish! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out. Golden spears rained down from the sky, heading straight for the red monster. It looked like a sky full of meteors, so gorgeous that it dazzled the eyes. Xue Chuxiang's eyes widened when she saw this. She was so shocked that her eyes widened. This is a joint skill, and it's a group attack skill. My God, who created this kind of perverted skill? Xue Chuxiang muttered to herself, panic written all over her face. Then, she lowered her head with a dispirited look on her face. Boom! The spears rained down and hit the red monster directly. The sound of explosions kept ringing. Each golden spear, as if it had eyes, could directly nail the red monster. No matter how it dodged, it was useless. The whole scene was full of the red monster's flesh and blood exploding. After their flesh and blood exploded into a blood mist, they were vaporized into nothingness by the golden light, disappearing completely. It looked like a massacre. After a while, the rain of spears stopped, and the sky returned to calm again. The group attack skill that the young master taught us is really terrifying. I didn't expect it to be so strong, millions of soldiers in front of us, and they couldn't fight back. Are you kidding? What kind of character is the young master? This little trick is nothing. Exclamations kept ringing. Everyone's face was filled with a touch of joy. However, boom, the sound of a big earthquake rang out. This sound woke everyone up with a start. Looking in the direction of the sound, everyone's pupils shrank, and their faces changed slightly. They saw, in the distance, a humanoid monster with a height of 10,000 meters was walking step by step from a distance. With every step they took, the earth cracked and the sky collapsed, and the turbulence of space kept spreading around. Every humanoid monster had blood-red skin, exuding a metallic luster. It looked like a giant mecha with a feeling of destroying everything. Get ready! A loud roar woke everyone up. The army of 100,000 responded quickly and began to transfer the sacred chi in their bodies into their palms. They quietly waited for the humanoid monsters to approach. Fortunately, there were not many humanoid monsters, less than 10,000. But each of them exuded the aura of the holy venerables, which made people's hair stand on end. Haha, Dao Ancestor, now you have to make a move, right? This is my ultimate killing move. I didn't want to use it, but you forced me. If you don't make a move, all your men will become their food. Xue Chuxiang said word by word, and her face was full of pride. Sun Hao turned a blind eye to the changes in Xue Chuxiang. He looked at those humanoid monsters calmly, without the slightest worry on his face. Boom, the sound of the earthquake kept ringing. The humanoid monsters were getting closer and closer. Do it! At this time, a loud shout resounded in everyone's ears. Buzz, everyone moved quickly, and wisps of sacred chi surged into the sky. A golden spear condensed and took shape again. The sky instantly lost its light, as if all the light was absorbed by the golden spear. Swish! The golden spear rain in the sky poured down like the Milky Way, and it went straight to those humanoid monsters. The terrifying power was like Mount Tai pressing down, shaking the world and making it tremble. Boom! The sound of explosions kept ringing. Endless turbulence enveloped everything in its surroundings. All the humanoid monsters disappeared without a trace. Until the spear rain stopped, the space turbulence did not stop. This should be dead, right? Is there a need to talk nonsense? How can they resist the joint attack skill that young master taught us? That's right. However, just after these words were said, the next scene made everyone's scalp numb, and cold sweat flowed. Their eyes widened, showing a look of disbelief. Chapter 674. Boom! The humanoid monsters were taking huge steps and quickly running towards the crowd. The blow just now did not leave any damage on them. The golden spear arrow rain was useless. Dao Ancestor, do you still want to watch? Just let your men die like this. Just make your move, I won't say that you're going back on your words. Next to Sun Hao, Xue Chuxiang was making sarcastic remarks. Your goading method is useless. However, you don't have to worry, just a few of them, I don't need to do anything. Sun Hao said. Just a quick mouth. Xue Chuxiang snorted coldly, and her eyes were full of disdain. Pierce the sky. A loud shout resounded through the world. The army of 100,000 moved again. His body surged with a wisp of 10-colored sacred essence. After gathering in the sky, it condensed together. Buzz, the world trembled. A golden spear that pierced the sky and the earth was rapidly condensing. The spear was 100,000 meters long, and it looked like a heavenly pillar. Boom! Around the spear, the sound of explosions kept ringing. The surrounding space could not withstand such power at all and was quickly shattering. Swish! A roar resounded through the world. The golden spear, like a living thing, rushed out directly. Boom! It was like a sharp arrow, penetrating the bodies of the humanoid monsters, directly nailing hundreds of humanoid monsters to the distance. Boom! In the end, the golden giant sword burst open, directly blasting hundreds of humanoid monsters into powder. With one blow, hundreds of humanoid monsters died tragically. However, for the army of tens of thousands of humanoid monsters, it had no effect at all. Boom! The humanoid monsters were approaching quickly. It seems that I, old son, am going to make a move. A loud shout sounded. Immediately afterward, a golden light rushed out. He was Sun Wukong. He blocked in front of the army of humanoid monsters, and the corner of his mouth raised, revealing a contemptuous smile. You weaklings are not enough for me, old son, to have a good fight. After speaking, Sun Wukong pulled out a ball of monkey hair, pointed it in front, and gently blew. Thousands of strands of golden light quickly lit up. A monkey that looked like Sun Wukong waved the stick in his hand and quickly pounced on those humanoid monsters. Eat my stick! A clone aimed at a humanoid monster and smashed it down. In front of Sun Wukong's clone, his originally indestructible body was as fragile as a thin piece of paper. Bang! A loud bang shook the heavens and earth. Without the support of any power, the humanoid monster was directly carved up by the spatial turbulence, vanishing without a trace. Such a scene played out in the entire scene. No humanoid monster could withstand an attack from Sun Wukong's clone. It was just a moment. All of the humanoid monsters died tragically. Not a single one was spared. Xue Chuxiang stared blankly at this scene. Her tongue trembled, and her voice trembled. The look of disbelief in his eyes was indescribable. Hiss! Xue Chuxiang sucked in a cold breath. This time, he was completely screwed. It was all his fault for not listening to his master and not being able to hide. From the looks of it, he would definitely perish today. No. I don't want to die. I'm still young. I still have a lot of things to do. Xue Chuxiang shook her head as tears streamed down her cheeks. Her whole body seemed to have lost its strength. If Sun Hao hadn't bound her in place, she would have collapsed to the ground. Mercy, Tao Ancestor. After some thought, Xue Chuxiang squeezed out this sentence. Mercy? Sun Hao looked at Xue Chuxiang with a cold face. It's not impossible for this seat to spare your life. However, you have to answer a few questions from this seat. If you answer well, I will spare your life. Sun Hao said. Thank you, Tao Ancestor. What questions do you have? How do you ask? I will answer everything I know. Xue Chuxiang regained her vigor and stared at Sun Hao. Tell me, who is your lord? Sun Hao asked. As soon as these words came out, Xue Chuxiang looked startled, and her eyes showed incomparable fear. She was afraid that if she said a word, she would die on the spot. Don't worry, I have arranged a heaven-concealing formation around. Even the heavenly Tao can't detect anything, Sun Hao said. Hearing this, Xue Chuxiang breathed a long sigh of relief. Tao Ancestor, my lord is the dark taboo you speak of, Xue Chuxiang said. Is it really the dark taboo? Sun Hao thought secretly, looked at Xue Chuxiang and continued to speak. Then do you know what the dark taboo looks like? What's his name? Is he resurrected now? How is his strength? As soon as Sun Hao opened his mouth, He asked all the questions in his heart. When Xue Chuxiang heard this, she shook her head slightly. Tao Ancestor, in fact, I have never seen the true body of the dark taboo. I don't know what he looks like. Every time I see him, he is a black shadow, and I can't even scan him with my divine sense. Every time I meet him, I have difficulty calling out, and my body trembles instinctively. If I'm not wrong, his strength must be at the Holy Emperor realm. I can feel that he is planning something big now. Listening to Xue Chuxiang's words, Sun Hao frowned, and his face showed a solemn expression. Above the Holy Venerate was the Holy Emperor realm. That was an even higher threshold. He had reached the 9th level of the Holy Venerate 3 months ago, only one step away from the Holy Emperor realm. But now, he was still stuck in the same place, unable to set foot on that realm. It was as if he was missing some primer. He could not absorb the power of faith in the soul space at all. It seemed that if he wanted to reach the Holy Emperor realm, he had to go to the Chaos Starfield to obtain the inheritance. Since you reached the 33rd heaven, what about the Celestial Emperor? What about Tathagata? Sun Hao asked. I didn't see him. Xue Chuxiang shook her head slightly. When I came, they were all gone. I don't know where they went. Gone? Sun Hao frowned, his heart full of doubts. It was as if he sensed that a shocking conspiracy was taking shape quickly, and soon, it would sweep the entire 3 realms. Now, he had to find the Chaos Starfield. One last question. Do you know where the Chaos Starfield is? Sun Hao asked. Xue Chuxiang's heart trembled, and a trace of fear appeared on her face. She could sense that if her answer did not match, she would die on the spot. Chaos Starfield? Where is that? Why haven't I heard of it? By the way, the heavenly slave blood ancestor seems to be guarding a place, and even I am not allowed to go near it. Could that be the Chaos Starfield? Or that is the entrance to the Chaos Starfield. No matter what, I can only tell this news to the Tao Ancestor. Whether I live or die, it is up to fate. Thinking like this, Xue Chuxiang secretly made a decision. Tao Ancestor, I have never heard of the Chaos Starfield. However, I know a place guarded by the heavenly slave blood ancestor, and even I am not allowed to go near it. Maybe that place is the Chaos Starfield you mentioned. Chapter 675. Where is it? Hearing Xue Chuxiang's words, Sun Hao blurted out. His eyes were full of brilliance. Tao Ancestor, that place is located in the abyss. Xue Chuxiang said. Abyss. Sun Hao frowned slightly, revealing a thoughtful look. He was about to send an army to slaughter the abyss and end this dark era. Unexpectedly, the Chaos Star region was also in the abyss, just in time to solve this matter together. Whether it is the Chaos Star region or not, it must be an extremely important place in the Dark Taboo. I have to go there. Sun Hao thought secretly and made a decision in his heart. Tao Ancestor, what do you think? Xue Chuxiang looked at Sun Hao with an extremely nervous expression. Your answer is very good, I promise to spare your life. Thank you, Tao Ancestor. Xue Chuxiang knelt in front of Sun Hao and kept kowtowing. However, there are 2 ways to spare you. I will plant a puppet in you, and your consciousness will exist forever. You can only be a bystander. Secondly, I will turn you into a mortal, and you will never be able to cultivate. Which one do you choose? Sun Hao looked at Xue Chuxiang and said faintly. Hearing this, Xue Chuxiang's expression changed drastically. She knelt in front of Sun Hao and kept kowtowing. In her eyes, tears rolled down. Tao Ancestor, please give me a third choice. Let me regain my freedom. I am willing to give you my 5 primordial holy treasures. Xue Chuxiang said while taking them out. Buzz, 5 beads flew out of the earth and slowly appeared in front of Sun Hao. The beads were in 5 colors, golden, green, red, and blue. Once this thing came out, Buzz, the chaos sacred pearl in Sun Hao's soul sea began to vibrate. It was like seeing a pile of delicious food. Tao Ancestor, this is the 5 elements sacred pearl. The 5 elements reinforce and restrain each other. One may not be comparable to an ordinary primordial holy treasure, but these 5 together are comparable to a middle-grade primordial holy treasure. With it, it will definitely help you in your important matters. Please, give me freedom. I promise I will never appear in front of you. After speaking, Xue Chuxiang kowtowed again. Sun Hao listened to this and frowned slightly. Greed flashed in his eyes. Since that's the case, I will spare your life. However, from today onwards, you must follow me and fight for me. Do you understand? Sun Hao took the 5 elements sacred pearls and said, "Thank you, Tao Ancestor." "No, thank you, my lord." Xue Chuxiang knelt in front of Sun Hao, trembling with excitement. "Okay, you go back, Old One will arrange which army you will enter." Sun Hao said. "Yes." After Xue Chuxiang left, Sun Hao took out the Chaos Sacred Bead. Once this thing appeared. Buzz, like a pinball, it shot out rapidly. The primal Chaos Sacred Orb pounced on the Sacred Orb of 5 elements and began to devour it. The power of the 5 essence sacred pearls was rapidly draining away. In less than a moment, it had turned into a white pearl without any power left. Cluck, the sacred pearl of chaos was like a burp and returned to Sun Hao's hand. Sun Hao stared blankly at the chaos sacred bead, and for a while, he did not come back to his senses. The chaos sacred pearl was actually a mid-grade connate sacred treasure. Now, he could confirm that its power had skyrocketed 10 times. With it, even if he faced the Holy Emperor, he should have the power to fight. Unless the Holy Emperor also had a mid-grade connate sacred treasure, he might not be his opponent. Can still evolve, not bad. Now, I can attack the abyss with confidence. Sun Hao nodded secretly with a smile on his face. Young master, everything has been arranged. What are your plans next? When Rinshir walked to Sun Hao and asked. Naturally, I am going to the abyss. This time, you arrange 1,000,000 people to attack. And let others be on standby and ready to support. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. When Rinshir quickly retreated. The abyss was a place shrouded in blood. Heaven and earth were blood-colored. Even the vegetation was blood-colored. It seemed that there was only one color between heaven and earth, and that was blood-red. The abyss was vast, endless, and boundless. Puff! A blood-red rattan that seemed to have no power suddenly shot out and directly pierced a red wild wolf next to it. Whoosh! The rattan rolled and directly took away the wild wolf's body. Gulp, as if sucking, the wild wolf's body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, boom! There was a loud explosion, leaving a faint blood mist, merging between heaven and earth. Then, the rattan returned to its original state without any change. Buzz! Suddenly, the sky shook with a series of roars. It swept through heaven and earth, scaring all the abyssal creatures to shiver and find a place to hide. Even the rattan, at this moment, whooshed into the ground and disappeared. Buzz! Layers of ripples shook quickly. One figure after another flew down from the sky. They stood all over the earth and the sky. They were densely packed and neatly arranged. It looked like an army. These people were the 1,000,000-strong army led by Rinshir. Shuemei! Rinshir shouted. This general is here. Shuemei stood up. You lead 100,000 troops, with this as the center, march north, and wherever you go, slaughter everything. Rinshir said. This general is here. Shuemei quickly retreated. Qiansu! Rinshir shouted again. This general is here. Qiansu, dressed in black armor, also stood up. You lead 100,000 troops, with this as the center, march northeast, and wherever you go, slaughter everything. Rinshir said. This general is here. Qiansu also retreated. Boss! Seeing Qiansu coming back, Han Xing rushed up quickly. Be serious, don't smile mischievously. Qiansu said. Boss, what are you afraid of? You are the young master's woman. Han Xing said. Shut up. Qiansu's face was cold, and the cold box was everywhere. At the same time, her face was full of a blush. She looked up at Sun Hao, but saw Sun Hao's gaze just swept over, and quickly withdrew her gaze, not daring to look at him. Su Yiling. Wen Renshi continued to shout. This general is here. In this way, under Wen Renshi's arrangement, 800,000 troops marched in 8 directions. Wen Renshi, on the other hand, led 200,000 troops and followed Sun Hao. In which direction? Sun Hao looked at Xue Chuxiang beside him and asked. My lord, let me think about it. Xue Chuxiang frowned, showing a thoughtful look. Suddenly, she raised her eyebrows and pointed to the north. My lord, it's in that direction, about 50 million kilometers away. Xue Chuxiang said. What? Sun Hao looked surprised. Chapter 676. 50 million kilometers away? Isn't that another planet? Sun Hao asked. My lord, is this your first time coming to the abyss? Xue Chuxiang asked. Yes. Sun Hao nodded slightly. Then let me introduce you to the abyss. In fact, the abyss is not the abyss, but the exit of the 3 realms. Xue Chuxiang's words directly stunned Sun Hao in place. The exit of the 3 realms. There are other worlds outside the 3 realms? This is the real cosmic space? My lord, you are right, this is the real cosmic space. Once you walk out of this exit, it is endless, there is no end at all. However, this cosmic space is extremely dangerous, don't enter it easily. The dark taboo can only survive in this star field and dare not go out. Xue Chuxiang said. Hearing these words, Sun Hao's heart shook and couldn't calm down for a long time. Sure enough, there is no end to cultivation. Just like the universe, it was boundless. You think you have reached the highest peak, but in fact, there are people at a higher peak looking down on you. Look, that ant. However, these are not what he can manage now. What he needs to do now is to find the Chaos Star Field as soon as possible and obtain the inheritance. Are you ready? Sun Hao looked back at the 200,000 army behind him. After seeing everyone nod, he waved his right hand. Buzz, a wave of power enveloped everyone. Sun Hao's figure disappeared from the planet in an instant. When he appeared again, he was already in the void. Looking at everything in front of him, Sun Hao's eyes widened with shock. He saw a blood-colored monster with a body length of 10,000 meters, covered with scales all over the body, filled the entire void. Each blood-colored monster exuded a monstrous aura. They were crawling on the ground as if they were sleeping. Looking at these blood-colored monsters, Sun Hao frowned with a dignified face. There is a special force enveloping the surroundings, which can actually block my investigation. Is this the heavenly slave blood ancestor? Sun Hao muttered to himself. My lord, be careful, the heavenly slave blood ancestor is much stronger than me. Behind Sun Hao, Xue Chuxiang said. Well, I understand. Sun Hao nodded and looked back at Wen Renshi. You guys wait here first, take action when needed. Yes, young master. Wen Renshi nodded. Buzz, Sun Hao stepped out and stood in front of a blood-colored monster. Let me break your formation. Sun Hao muttered to himself, stretched out his finger, and pointed forward. Buzz, Sun Hao's fingertips shook up layers of ripples. Gotcha! The sound of an eggshell cracking rang out. Immediately after. Who dares to barge into my forbidden grounds? Are you tired of living? A roar resounded throughout the world. Immediately afterward, an old man in a blood robe quickly appeared in front of Sun Hao. The old man had a head full of blood-red hair, which looked extremely bright. A surging aura swept out from the old man's body and filled the heavens and earth. The old man was none other than the heavenly slave blood ancestor. It's you. The moment he saw Sun Hao, the heavenly slave blood ancestor's eyes lit up and he showed pride. After waiting for so many years, you're finally here. Get out of the way, Sun Hao said lightly. Tao Father, if you were at your peak, you could wipe me out with a single breath. However, how can you compare to me now? As he spoke, the heavenly slave blood ancestor attacked. A bloody hand condensed rapidly. It aimed at Sun Hao's chest and pressed over. This bloody hand was as fast as lightning, and Sun Hao had no time to react before he was pressed on his chest. Bang! Sun Hao's body staggered straight back, and it took a lot of time to stabilize his figure. This palm pressed Sun Hao's blood chi up, and his chest was uncomfortable. The heavenly slave blood ancestor is indeed strong. Sun Hao was very clear about how strong his physical body was. Unexpectedly, the heavenly slave blood ancestor's casual palm just now pressed his blood chi up. The strength exerted by the heavenly slave blood ancestor probably reached the realm of Holy Emperor. At this moment, the heavenly slave blood ancestor also looked at Sun Hao, secretly shocked. The blow just now seemed to be a casual blow, but he used 80% of his strength. An ordinary Holy Emperor powerhouse would be seriously injured if he was pressed by this palm. Unexpectedly, it didn't hurt the Tao ancestor. Moreover, he didn't use any shield. It seemed that this Tao ancestor's physical body was not ordinary strong. This is a little fun. I like it. The heavenly slave blood ancestor licked his lips and revealed a playful smile. He stared at Sun Hao as if staring at a prey. Buzz! The heavenly slave blood ancestor's figure flashed and instantly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Sun Hao. Buzz! With a flash of blood light, the two blood claws condensed again. The power this time was several times stronger than before. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao's pupils shrank, and his face changed drastically. He didn't expect the heavenly slave blood ancestor to be so terrifying. There was no other way. He could only use the innate holy treasure. Buzz! With a flash of light, a shield suddenly surged in front of Sun Hao. At the same time, boom! The two claws directly hit Sun Hao's body. Boom! The heavenly slave blood ancestor's body was blasted back by a counterforce. As for Sun Hao, he stood in place, motionless. Although the shield on his body was distorted, there was not much problem. How is this possible? The heavenly slave blood ancestor stood in place, his face full of shock. He used his full strength in the blow just now. Not only that, he also secretly used the power of the mid-grade innate holy treasure. Although he could only exert 10% of its power with his strength, it was not something that a 9th-level holy venerate could resist. As for him, he was completely fine. How was this possible? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. As expected of the Tao ancestor, he is a little unexpectedly strong. However, this old man is here, waiting for you to come over. With this old man here, don't even think about going in from here. The heavenly slave blood ancestor pointed to the sky, and on his finger, blood lines fluttered. These blood lines were not attacking Sun Hao, but aimed at the eyebrows of those huge monsters. Boom! Any monster that was touched by the bloodline, its head and body all burst open, and it died tragically on the spot. Whoosh! Boundless blood chi gushed out from his body. It quickly condensed into a blood-red spider web, covering the entire body of the heavenly slave blood ancestor. Go! The heavenly slave blood ancestor let out a roar. These blood-colored spider webs quickly arrived and covered Sun Hao in an instant. The sound of roasting iron sounded. The blood-colored spider web wrapped around Sun Hao's shield, burning bursts of black smoke. The shield seemed to be about to burst open, twisting and deforming quickly. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao's face changed slightly. He looked at the heavenly slave blood ancestor, his face full of killing intent. Those who dare to stop me die. Sun Hao took a step out and instantly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in front of the heavenly slave blood ancestor. He raised his fist and punched at the heavenly slave blood ancestor. Just in time. The heavenly slave blood ancestor's two hands turned into blood claws, aiming at Sun Hao's fist. Chapter 677. Boom, heaven and earth trembled, and the sun and moon lost their light. Sun Hao and the heavenly slave blood ancestor fought together, causing the surrounding void to crack. A terrifying might swept out in all directions. This battle lasted for 2 full days. From beginning to end, Sun Hao's power had never been exhausted, and it seemed endless. On the other hand, the heavenly slave blood ancestor was much weaker. The more he fought, the more passive he became. In the end, he was beaten to the point where he couldn't resist at all. Damn it, why can't this kid use up all of his energy? The heavenly slave blood ancestor became more and more frightened. His expression kept changing. It's time to end this. Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth, called his own power, and poured it into the Chaos Sacred Pearl. Buzz, the Chaos Sacred Pearl trembled rapidly, unleashing a monstrous power, forming strands of void silk threads that drilled into Sun Hao's right arm. 20% of the Chaos Sacred Orb's power was channeled into his arm, causing the void to tremble. The heavenly slave blood ancestor's expression changed drastically. Without hesitation, he quickly extracted the Khanate Holy Treasure's power and poured it into his body. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. However, there was no time. Boom! Sun Hao's fist blasted into the heavenly slave blood ancestor in an instant. Bang! The heavenly slave blood ancestor flew backward like a meteor and landed on a useless planet. The entire wasted star cracked and exploded into smithereens. The power of the explosion hit the heavenly slave blood ancestor. Instantly. Pooh! The heavenly slave blood ancestor spat out blood and his face turned pale. Her bright red hair instantly turned red and white. His aura was dispirited. Monster, he's really a monster. The heavenly slave blood ancestor muttered to himself. Immediately afterward, the heavenly slave blood ancestor's body flew out uncontrollably and fell into Sun Hao's hands. Tell me, where is the taboo of darkness? Sun Hao looked coldly at the heavenly slave blood ancestor and said indifferently. Ha! The blood ancestor threw his head back and laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Tao ancestor, you are very strong, but so what? In front of my master, you are nothing. You want to know where my master is? In your dreams. The heavenly slave blood ancestor said. If that's the case, then go to hell. Sun Hao's voice was cold and murderous. Dead? Ha! You think you can kill me? You think this is over? At this point, the heavenly slave blood ancestor glanced at the void and used a secret technique to transmit his voice. Sure Wudao, what are you waiting for? Hurry up! This sound rose. Sun Hao's scalp exploded, and a deadly crisis surged into his heart. Without a second thought, he used a spell to escape. At the same time, he used a shield to cover his entire body. As soon as his figure left the spot, a golden ray arrived and disappeared in an instant. Wherever the golden light went, the void was burned into a black thread. The might he left behind shook the area non-stop, causing one's scalp to go numb. The heavenly slave blood ancestor was startled. Sure Wudao, are you trying to kill this old man? The heavenly slave blood ancestor struggled to his feet. Ha! A hearty laughter came from the void. Bang, bang! The sound of armor clanging against each other resounded through the air and went straight into people's hearts. Immediately after, men wearing golden armor and wielding halberds walked out of the ripples in the void. Every golden-armored man was flowing with golden light, looking dazzling. In the blink of an eye, they filled the void. These people numbered less than 100,000, but each of them was a holy venerable powerhouse. It was simply terrifying to the extreme. So many holy venerables? When Rensher looked at this scene with a solemn expression. Tao ancestor, this emperor has been waiting for you for a long time, and you are finally here. A sound of breaking through the air shook directly in his mind. The multicolored light spurted and the luck covered the sky. The majestic aura was like a cosmic cloud, enveloping everything in the void. Greetings, great Emperor! The neat voice resounded through the 9 heavens. All the golden-armored men were divided into 2 rows and knelt down. In the center of the 2 rows of golden-armored men, endless multicolored light kept spurting, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. A group of people surrounded a golden-robed man, who was stepping out step by step. Every time he stepped out, it would make the void tremble, and the terrifying power swept over Sun Hao and the others like a tsunami. Sun Hao released his aura and enveloped everyone. Clang, where the 2 auras collided, they would shake up layers of ripples. The terrifying shock wave kept spreading in all directions. The explosion sounded, and it kept ringing. The golden-robed man looked at this scene, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and his expression was calm. As expected of the Tao Ancestor, you can actually resist this Emperor's pressure, the golden-robed man said faintly. Heavenly Emperor? Looking at the golden-robed man, Sun Wukong couldn't help but exclaim. Heavenly Emperor Shi Wudao? Sun Hao also frowned slightly, revealing a thoughtful look. Unexpectedly, the Heavenly Emperor actually colluded with the Heavenly Slave Blood Ancestor. What kind of agreement did the 2 of them reach? Tao Ancestor, this Emperor will not embarrass you. Escape immediately, this Emperor will pretend that nothing happened. This is really not a place for you. Shi Wudao's voice was like thunder, constantly shaking out, and the whole world, in this piece, seemed to lose color. Sun Hao smiled coldly, with just you? No, Shi Wudao gently shook his finger. Of course, it's not just this Emperor. At this point, Shi Wudao looked into the depths of the void and shouted, "Come out!" This sound rose. The void trembled. Layers of ripples shook, and trillions of golden light spread out from the ripples. One by one, arhats with golden light all over their bodies walked out of the ripples. Then, there was a bodhisattva. They put their hands together, muttering words in their mouths, and scriptures gushed out of their mouths, sprinkling all over the world. Finally, they piled up into a golden path, directly connected to the depths of the ripples. The void trembled. 5 colored rays of light gushed out from the ripples. Immediately afterward, a giant Buddha sitting cross-legged on a golden lotus throne slowly drifted out. The giant Buddha's body emitted golden light all over, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. It looked as if it was indestructible and sacred to the extreme. Tathagata! The moment they saw the giant Buddha, Sun Wukong and 6-eared macaque's eyes spewed fire, and they shouted angrily. The 2 clenched their fists, and their joints exploded. It looked as if they were going to devour Tathagata Buddha. Good, Tathagata Buddha looked at Sun Hao, put his hands together, and revealed a kind smile. At a glance, it made people feel like a spring breeze, and the whole person was extremely comfortable. Tao Ancestor, this seat has no intention of being enemies with you, please leave here. Otherwise, don't blame this seat for starting a massacre. Tathagata Buddha revealed a fierce light and glanced at the army behind Sun Hao. The threat was very obvious. Sun Hao turned a deaf ear to Tathagata Buddha's threat. He looked into the void. Why do you want to appear one by one? Is it interesting to make such a fancy scene? Chapter 678. Come out, all of you. Don't make it so fancy, okay? Sun Hao's voice was like thunder, clearly transmitted into the void. For Sun Hao's disregard, the corner of Buddha's mouth twitched slightly, and his anger flashed away. Damn it, dare to disrespect Buddha? Watch my move. A Buddha 10,000 meters long turned into a huge Vajra Arhat. His body exuded a metallic luster, looking as if he could destroy everything. Buzz! He stretched out his big hand covering the sky and reached down from the sky. Seeing that the big hand covering the sky was about to catch Sun Hao in his hand. Courting death. A roar tore through the void. A golden long stick phantom formed on the top of the Vajra Arhat's head and quickly smashed down. Boom! There was a loud explosion. The Vajra Arhat's body collapsed, directly exploded into nothingness, and disappeared. One hit to death. Two figures quickly jumped in front of Sun Hao. These two people were Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque. The two of them stared fixedly at Tathagata Buddha. Anger and killing intent, without any concealment. At this moment, Buddha also looked at Sun Wukong and the two monkeys, and his face was very ugly. Just now, Sun Wukong smashed a Buddha under his hand with a stick, and the attack was so fast that even he had no time to react. This speed had already reached an inconceivable level. The stone monkey that was once casually handled by him has now grown to the point where it can fight against him. Humph! Buddha snorted coldly, and his killing intent was hidden. Old man Tathagata, see if I don't kill you later. And I, Six-Eared. What do you think of me, child? After using me, you still want to suppress me like this? Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque stared at Buddha together, and their anger and killing intent were not concealed. Hee. Buddha Tathagata merely smiled and did not reply. Young master, leave old man Tathagata to us later. Sun Wukong and the two monkeys spoke at the same time. Yes. Sun Hao smiled and nodded. Speaking of this, Sun Hao's eyes swept, and his eyes burst with colorful light. The people hiding in the void were all in his eyes. Since you don't come out, then I will invite you out. Sun Hao snorted coldly, stretched out his right hand and blasted forward. Buzz, huge hands that blotted out the sky covered heaven and earth. Ripples appeared in the surrounding space as several figures walked out from the ripples. Each of them gave off the aura of a ninth-layer holy venerate. Any one of them would be a big shot no matter where they went. In front of each of them were hundreds of thousands of subordinates. These subordinates also gave off the aura of a holy venerate. They looked extremely terrifying. Young master, that's the Queen Mother of the West. Back then, I, old son, fell into her trap and stole her immortality peach. Otherwise, we wouldn't have encountered such a calamity. Her strength is not weaker than the celestial Dharch. Fear appeared in Sun Wukong's eyes. What about that one? Sun Hao pointed to a woman. The woman wore a white robe and held a jade bottle in her hand. Inside the bottle was a willow leaf. She looked as pure as ice and as clean as jade, untainted by the aura of the mortal world. With just a glance, one could not help but feel reverence for him. Young master, she is the 1000 Annihilation Guanyin. Don't be fooled by her appearance. She has a sinister heart. She enslaves all living beings and is the leader of the journey to the west. I, old son, suffered a big loss in her hands back then. Her strength is also not weaker than Tathagata. Sun Wukong pointed to the 1000 Annihilation Guanyin with the same look of fear. What about that one? Sun Hao pointed to a kind-looking old man and asked. Young master, he is the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord. He is an incomparably sinister villain. Back then, I, old son, didn't know the ways of the world. I didn't know that this was the big picture they set up. As a result, I was thrown into the pill furnace and refined for 49 days. They extracted my origin power and deprived me of the qualification to enter the saint realm. If I hadn't met you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to become a saint now. Sun Wukong's eyes were about to crack, and his face was full of anger. He pointed to these big shots and exposed their inner sinister hearts. Sun Hao listened to these and couldn't help but sweep over. The celestial Dharch, Tathagata, 1000 Annihilation Guanyin, Queen Mother of the West, Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, Patriarch Subhuti. Each of them had reached the 9th stage of the Saint Venerable Realm. That kind of terrifying aura was not weaker than his own. Moreover, each of the subordinates they brought had reached the Saint Venerable Realm. It was simply too terrifying. And under his own subordinates, there were only tens of thousands of people who had reached the Saint Venerable Realm. It couldn't be compared at all. There was no chance of winning this battle at all. Tao Ancestor, you are strong, but how can you be our opponent? Leave, this is not a place you can come to. We don't want to be ruthless. If you force us like this, then we can only fight. Several big shots opened their mouths and said. Their tone was calm, but the threat was extremely obvious. Why do you want to stop me? Are you the minions of the Dark Taboo? Sun Hao looked at the crowd and said while gritting his teeth. The monstrous killing intent was contained in his voice. Ha ha, the Sky Emperor let out a hearty laugh. That voice seemed to be laughing at Sun Hao's ignorance. Dark Taboo. That's a supreme existence. How do you understand her? What she does is not something you can understand at all. At this point, the Sky Emperor's expression gradually became cold. Tao Ancestor, with your current strength, you are not our opponent. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. Otherwise, we will definitely start a massacre. The Sky Emperor said. Start a massacre? Do you think this is all I have? After speaking, Sun Hao waved his right hand. Buzz, the void shook up layers of ripples, and 800,000 troops walked out of the void and quickly stood behind Sun Hao. Hu, Su Yiling and the others quickly flew over and stood behind Sun Hao. Young master, leave him to me. Su Yiling pointed to Patriarch Subhoodie, and her eyes bloomed as if seeing a pile of delicious food. Okay. Sun Hao nodded slightly. Young master, leave Thousand Destruction Guanyin to me. Ning Mingji came forward with his 3 apprentices. Okay. Sun Hao nodded. That old man, leave him to me. Qian Su came forward with Han Xing, pointed to the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord, and said, Okay. Sun Hao nodded. Young master, that old thing looks very treacherous, leave him to me. Xue Mei pointed to Patriarch Subhoodie and said. In this way, these big shots quickly assigned opponent. Ha ha, with these millions of weak chickens, you want to fight us? Tao Ancestor, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Today, I'll let you see that in the face of absolute strength, no matter how many there are, it's useless. The Sky Emperor sneered, looking at the crowd without fear. Chapter 679. Really? Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth and waved his right hand lightly. Buzz, the void shook up layers of ripples. One by one, men in silver armor rushed out of the ripples quickly. In less than a moment, they surged all over the void. They lined up in a formation and stood behind Sun Hao. At a glance, they couldn't see the continuity at all. The number reached hundreds of millions. Looking at this army of hundreds of millions, everyone's pupils shrank, and their faces changed slightly. Among this army of hundreds of millions, there were also many people who reached the Holy Venerable Realm. Even half of them had reached the 9th level of the Holy Spirit Realm. Even the weakest had reached the 7th level of the Holy Spirit Realm. With so many gathered together, it was unimaginable how strong the power that could erupt. The Sky Emperor looked at this scene, first stunned and then, the corner of his mouth raised. No matter how many there are, so what? Since you want to fight, then come on. After saying this, the Sky Emperor waved his right hand rapidly. Buzz, above the void, there was a rapid distortion. One by one, golden light palms quickly condensed. Each palm covered the sky and the earth, and went straight to the army behind Sun Hao. This sudden blow was obviously a sneak attack. Sun Hao looked at this scene, and his face did not change. Who? He took a step out and disappeared in place instantly. When he appeared again, he had already arrived in front of the Sky Emperor, raised his fist, aimed at the Sky Emperor's face, and smashed down fiercely. You sneak attack your men, then I will sneak attack you. Sun Hao didn't pay any attention to those golden palms. The army of over 100 million watched this scene with a calm expression. Seeing that, they were about to be crushed into powder by the golden palms. These their orderly voices caused the void to tremble. They waved the long spears in their hands together and pointed to the sky. Wisps of golden light flew up from the tip of the spear, covering everyone's head. Buzz, a shield instantly enveloped them. Boom, the golden palm slammed on the shield, only slightly shaking up layers of ripples, which had little effect on the great array. The Sky Emperor looked at this scene, and he couldn't help but widen his eyes, and his face was shocked. At the moment when he was stunned. Boom, Sun Hao's fist slammed into his face. Whoo! His body flew out upside down. Bang! After he crashed into the golden armored guards, they were blown to smithereens. There was no way to resist the power that erupted from his body. The celestial Dharch had to expend a lot of energy to stabilize himself. He rubbed his swollen face with his hand and looked at Sun Hao with an extremely ugly expression. The feeling of being slapped in the face by so many people was very uncomfortable. Lad, you've thoroughly angered this emperor today. Today, I'll let you see what it means to have no response even when you cry for help. The heavenly emperor took a step and rushed straight to Sun Hao. Humph! Sun Hao snorted coldly and rushed forward. The two of them seemed to be afraid that the shockwaves from their battle would hurt their subordinate. Their bodies flickered and appeared in the depths of the void. Light waves from the explosion rose from their bodies and spread out continuously. For a time, they were locked in a fierce battle. Old man Rulai, do you dare to fight me, old son? Young Buddha, do you dare to fight with me? Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque leaped into the air. The clamor reached the ears of the Tathagata Buddha. This sound awakened the Tathagata Buddha. He stepped out and instantly came to the front of the two monkeys. Boom, the void collapsed, and the air waves were boundless. Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque began to attack frantically one after the other. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle, and the sound of explosions kept ringing. For a while, they couldn't tell the outcome. Come on! Fight! Who's afraid of who? Around Sun Hao, one by one, they found their opponent. Because their strength was too strong, they were all far away from the center of the battle and fought in the void. The terrifying light curtain surged into the void. It was gorgeous like fireworks, very psychedelic. Kill. In the center of the battlefield, the two armies fought together in an instant. Whoosh, the skill light illuminated the void, pounced into the enemy camp, and exploded. Boom, the sound of terrifying explosions kept ringing out. All the power was blocked by the shield, and no substantial damage was caused. Holy joint attack technique. When Rensher stood in the middle of the team and clenched his fist. In everyone's ears, they received orders one after another. Hundreds of millions of troops waved their right hands at the same time and raised them to the sky. The neat appearance was like a well-trained army. Under the support of a strong divine sense, their movements were uniform. He didn't even slow down as he chanted the incantation. Wisps of colorful light gushed out of their hands and rushed into the sky. Finally, it formed an indescribable giant claw that covered the sky. With the momentum of tearing everything, it went straight to the Sky Emperor army. Seeing this scene, the faces of the Sky Emperor army changed dramatically. In everyone's face there was a look of deep horror. Heavenly Emperor's shield! A roar resounded directly in everyone's ears. These Sky Emperor army, who were in a daze, all reacted. Roar, one by one, their eyes were blood-red, looking up to the sky and roaring. On his body, a golden giant drilled out, raised his hands, and blasted into the sky. Buzz, an indescribable golden shield covered the sky and the earth. It enveloped the Sky Emperor army. The giant claw that covered the sky fell rapidly. In an instant, it blasted on the golden shield. Immediately, Kacha! The sound of an eggshell cracking sounded. The golden shield shattered into pieces. The giant claw that covered the sky also became illusory. However, its power did not diminish. It blasted directly into the crowd. Boom! The sound of flesh and blood exploding rang out constantly. Their bodies exploded one after another, exploding into powder. Screams resounded through the void. Even those who survived had their bodies mutilated, and were too horrible to look at. It was just one blow. The Sky Emperor army suffered heavy casualties and had no power to fight. Such a scene strongly stimulated the nerves of the other armies. They stared blankly at this scene, and for a while, they did not come back to their senses. Especially those Vajra Arhats, their bodies were trembling at this moment, and cold sweat flowed. They also cultivated the golden body. How could they resist such a move? The Buddha was in a great battle, and had no time to care about them. What to do? The group of Buddhist disciples all had a look of dread. Their legs were even trembling slightly. Buzz, in the moment when they were stunned, the void trembled again. The entire void was twisting rapidly. A giant claw that covered the sky quickly condensed and formed again. This giant claw shook heaven and earth. Aiming at the group of Buddhist disciples, it pressed down. The terrifying power made people's scalp explode and cold sweat flowed. How should we resist this? The Buddha is not here. How can we resist? It's over, it's over. Desperate cries resounded throughout the crowd of Buddhist disciples. P.S. Finish this book immediately. Ask for monthly vote. Chapter 680. Quick, chant the scriptures together. A roar resounded in everyone's mind. Tens of thousands of Buddhist disciples moved in unison. They sat cross-legged on the ground, chanting in their mouths. Juligala, a series of complex scriptures gushed out of their mouths. These scriptures quickly piled up, forming a huge golden Buddha. This Buddha was so big that it stretched across the void, the size of a planet. A mighty Buddhist aura surged from the body of the golden Buddha and engulfed the entire void. Presumptuous! The golden Buddha looked at the giant claw in the void and couldn't help but let out a roar. He stretched out his palm, aimed at the giant claw, and blasted it. Buzz, the void trembled, and the airwaves were boundless. The light from the explosion was so bright that people couldn't look straight at it. The whole world was shaking as if it was about to collapse. The sharp claw and the golden Buddha's giant hand collided in an instant. Kacha! The sound of an eggshell cracking rang out. There was a crack on the golden Buddha's giant hand. This crack spread down like a spiderweb, from the arm to the body, then from the body, through the surroundings, and rushed to the head. The golden Buddha sensed all this in horror. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't make a sound. Boom! There was an explosion. The golden Buddha's body exploded. It burst into golden light and finally disappeared. Puff! One by one, the Buddhist disciples were counterattacked by the power and vomited blood. Their faces were pale and extremely ugly. When they looked up, their pupils shrank and their faces changed dramatically. No, unwilling cries resounded through the world. They covered their heads and fled quickly. However, it was too late. The giant claw fell down in an instant. Although there was not much power left, it was not something they could resist. Boom! Those who were hit by the power directly collapsed and exploded into powder. The immortal golden body that they were proud of in the face of this power was like thin paper, fragile. A blow fell. All Vajra Arhats, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, all their bodies exploded and exploded into powder. This scene caused all the other armies that were preparing to join the battle to be scared silly. This was just the beginning, and 2 armies were destroyed. Wouldn't it be their turn next? In the face of such a powerful army, how could they still have the slightest intention to fight? Run! Many of them began to flee in a frenzy. Originally, they were as a whole, but in an instant, they were like a crumbling army, completely losing their stance. How could they possibly be a match for an army of over 100 million well-trained soldiers who used joint attacks? It looked like a massacre. No, the various sounds on the battlefield constantly intertwined and linked together, like a battlefield symphony. In the distant void. Boom! Sun how suppressed the heavenly emperor and beat him until he had no power to resist. The celestial Dharch gritted his teeth and resisted frantically. However, Sun Hao's physical strength seemed endless and could not be used up at all. As for himself, His strength was rapidly depleting. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before his energy was completely depleted. What exactly is inside your body? Why is the power endless? The Heavenly Emperor pulled away from Sun Hao and asked. Sun Hao smiled coldly, cold killing intent, without any concealment. The dead don't need to know. After speaking, Sun Hao stepped out, appeared in front of the Heavenly Emperor again, and fought with him. Boom, the void trembled, and the sound of explosions continued. The two continued to fight together. It was not far from Sun Hao's battlefield. Old man Tathagata, take this. Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque waved their sticks frantically and slammed them on Buddha Tathagata. Ding, the sound of metal colliding kept ringing. The stick seemed to be whipped on metal, leaving no damage. Buddha Tathagata was calm and composed. Boom, a palm blasted out, hitting Sun Wukong's body straight back, and he hurriedly used his movement technique to resolve the power in his body. And at this moment, boom, Six-Eared Macaque took the opportunity to meet and hit the back of Buddha Tathagata's head. This blow made his head roar and he saw stars. Damn it! Buddha Tathagata shook his head and regained consciousness. He had been attacked by Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque many times. Every time, he was careful, but it still didn't work. The two had a tacit understanding, and their cooperation was extremely perfect. I didn't kill you because you are spiritual beings of heaven and earth. Now it seems that it's all my fault for being merciful. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let you live. Buddha Tathagata looked at the two monkeys, and his eyes were full of anger and killing intent. Old man Tathagata, you can't kill me. Why give yourself a way out? Since you know that we are spiritual beings of heaven and earth, how can you kill us? Old man Tathagata, die. Sun Wukong glanced at Six-Eared Macaque. The two nodded to each other. Swish, the two figures flickered left and right, making it impossible to capture their figures. Buzz, there was a shock. The two bodies merged together in an instant. Roar, a giant golden ape quickly condensed and formed, making a shocking roar. His voice caused the void to tremble incessantly. Looking at this scene, Buddha Tathagata's pupils shrank, and his face changed drastically. Buddha Tathagata hurriedly sat cross-legged on the ground, chanting a scripture that could not be understood in his mouth. Swish, hundreds of millions of scriptures instantly enveloped him. His body expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a giant golden Buddha. The size of the golden Buddha was the size of the giant golden ape. Buzz, Buddha Tathagata raised his palm and blasted it at the giant golden ape's staff. Boom, heaven and earth collapsed. The giant golden staff smashed fiercely on Buddha Tathagata's palm. Kacha, the sound of an eggshell cracking rang out. Cracks quickly cracked on Buddha Tathagata's body and quickly spread throughout his body. Sensing all this, Buddha Tathagata's body trembled, and his eyes rolled around. Disbelief was written all over his face. This is impossible. Buddha Tathagata muttered to himself. He sensed that he could not even make a sound. Kacha, the cracks quickly spread to the center of his eyebrows. Boom, with a loud explosion, Buddha Tathagata's entire body directly burst open and exploded into powder. Around, calm was restored. The giant golden ape's body slowly dissipated. It became Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque again. When Sun Wukong and Six-Eared Macaque saw this scene, their bodies softened and fell in the void. The feeling of exhaustion surged all over their body. However, the two monkeys looked at each other and smiled, revealing a smug look. Well done! The two monkeys gave each other a thumbs up and cheered each other on. A mouthful of foul air gushed out of their bodies. The unwillingness, grievances, and anger that flowed over the years, at this moment, it disappeared completely. Chapter 681. No, don't. After a few hours of fighting, Taishang Laojun was already weak. How could he, who was only good at alchemy, be Su Yiling's opponent? In front of him, A huge Taotai phantom opened its bloody mouth, aimed at Taishang Laojun, and bit down. Seeing this scene, Taishang Laojun's face changed drastically, and he let out an unwilling roar. However, it was useless. Gotcha! There was a chewing sound. Taishang Laojun's body was swallowed by the Taotai like a medicinal pill, disappearing without a trace. The Taotai returned to Su Yiling's body. So full, this stinky old man's body is like a peerless medicinal pill. Su Yiling touched her round belly, showing a satisfied look. And scenes like this were staged throughout the battlefield. Sun Hao's side was simply a complete victory. The people of the Sky Emperor camp, one by one, died on the spot. Now, only Sun Hao and the Sky Emperor were still fighting. Damn it! Sensing the scene below, the Sky Emperor secretly cursed. His face was pale, his teeth clenched, and he kept squeezing the power in his body to resist Sun Hao's attack. No, I can't lose like this. Otherwise, I have no status in front of the Lord. I can't call them, they have oppressed me for years. The Sky Emperor muttered to himself, his face full of unwillingness. Boom! A punch blasted on the Sky Emperor's face. Puff! A mouthful of golden blood spurted out. The Sky Emperor flew around in the void and struggled for a long time before he stabilized his figure. He looked at Sun Hao, and his face was extremely ugly. Now, his strength was exhausted, and it was impossible for him to be his opponent. Tell me everything you know, and I can give you a quick death. Sun Hao stepped in front of the Sky Emperor and said lightly. Hee. The Sky Emperor grinned, revealing a contemptuous smile. Don't even think about it. If that's the case, then go to hell for this seat. Sun Hao stretched out his palm, aimed at the Sky Emperor's head, and pressed it down. Sensing the irresistible power, the Sky Emperor's face changed dramatically. Am I going to die like this? No, the Sky Emperor let out an unwilling roar. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. This sound rose. Buzz, the void trembled. Sun Hao's palm that was pressed out was actually imprisoned in place. An incomparably terrifying power enveloped Sun Hao. At this moment, Sun Hao clenched his teeth and struggled to break free, but the power was too terrifying, and he couldn't struggle at all. Not only that, the hundreds of millions of troops brought by Sun Hao were also imprisoned in place at this moment, unable to move. Buzz, the void trembled and a figure appeared out of thin air. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand and wore a green robe. His long white beard reached his waist. He looked like a sage with the demeanor of a transcendent being. This person was none other than Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. His body carried the laws of the Dao. After he appeared, everyone was locked in place, unable to move. Dao Father, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for far too long. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun stepped out and instantly appeared in front of Sun Hao. Sun Hao clenched his teeth and used all kinds of secret techniques at the same time. Gotcha! The sound of an egg cracking rang out. Upon hearing that, Dao Ancestor Hong Jun's expression changed slightly. However, he quickly calmed down. Junior brother, are you just going to watch and not come out to help? If the Lord knows about this, you'll see. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun looked at the void and said faintly. As soon as these words came out, Buzz, the void trembled. A figure appeared in front of Sun Hao. He was dressed in a purple robe, and his surging aura came out continuously. For execution, immortal swords kept spinning around him. This person was none other than Grandmaster Tong Tian. Buzz, the execution immortal sword trembled and flew towards Sun Hao quickly. In an instant, it enveloped Sun Hao. At this moment, Sun Hao's whole body seemed to be oppressed by hundreds of millions of giant mountains, and it was extremely difficult to even move a finger. He looked at Dao Ancestor Hong Jun and Grandmaster Tong Tian, and his face changed slightly. Holy Emperor! He couldn't help but blurt out. These two people's strength was definitely Holy Emperor, otherwise, how could they check and balance him? Dao Ancestor, don't struggle, it's useless. If it's just this old man alone, I may not be able to check and balance you. However, with the help of junior brother, any struggle you have is futile. My junior brother's 4 execution immortal swords are high-grade primordial holy treasures, far from what your chaos Xian bead can compare to. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun seemed to see what Sun Hao was thinking and said everything. Sun Hao opened his mouth, but he couldn't say a word. Now that he was being controlled, it was futile to say anything. Is all this going to end like this? Why? Sun Hao roared. Hee. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun smiled slightly. Dao Ancestor, don't worry, when it's time to let you know the truth, you will naturally know everything. When the Lord comes, you will know. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun said with a smile. Sun Hao opened his mouth and was unable to speak. Seeing that Sun Hao had nothing to say, Dao Ancestor Hong Jun smiled slightly, looked at Heaven Emperor and said, Sure Wu Dao, do you remember our agreement? Dao Ancestor Hong Jun, don't worry, I remember it very clearly. Heaven Emperor said word by word, gritting his teeth. Every word revealed how unwilling he was at the moment. Ha ha! Dao Ancestor Hong Jun let out a hearty laugh. As for sect leader Tong Tian, at this moment, his back was facing Sun Hao, and he didn't say a word. No one knew what he was thinking. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun waved his horsetail whisk, and wisps of light gushed out from the horsetail whisk. Wisps of light surged into the entire void. Buzz, the void kept twisting. One figure after another slowly condensed and formed. These people were the dead Heavenly Emperor army, Buddhist disciples, even Buddha, Thousand Destruction Guanyin, Taishang Laojun. One by one, they were resurrected. I'm not dead, or? Great, I'm resurrected! Look! Exclamations kept ringing out. Everyone looked up and saw Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. One by one, their pupils contracted, and their faces changed slightly. What, Dao Ancestor Hong Jun is here? No wonder we are resurrected. Thank you, Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. Everyone knelt down and kowtowed to Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. In Sun Hao's army of hundreds of millions, everyone looked at this scene and couldn't help but clench their fists, their faces full of bitterness. Even the young master was restrained. How could they be his opponent? Could it be that Dao Ancestor Hong Jun had betrayed and become a subordinate of the Dark Taboo? No, the unwilling roar resounded in everyone's heart. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun looked at this scene, smiled and waved his hand. Everyone doesn't have to be so polite. As long as the old man is here, you can't die. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun said with a smile. Thank you, Dao Ancestor Hong Jun. Everyone got up one after another and looked at Dao Ancestor Hong Jun with excitement. The color of joy was written all over everyone's face. However, aren't you happy too early? End of this chapter. So I am Dao Ancestor Source. Chapter 682. It's too early for you to be happy. The sound reverberated in everyone's ears. Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Their gazes swept around, and their divine senses enveloped the void. However, after searching for a long time, he still couldn't find the person who spoke. Who is it? What kind of hero are you, hiding your head and showing your tail? Dao Ancestor Hong Jun's voice rumbled like thunder, blasting into the void. Bang, wherever it went, the void quickly shrouded and deformed. Countless streams of spatial turbulence enveloped the void. However, the surroundings were still silent and incomparably calm. It was as if the person who had spoken had never appeared. Break. Tong Tian, who had never spoken, suddenly spoke. Then, he pointed his finger forward. Swish, a ray of sword light flew out from his fingers. Buzz, the void distorted. A figure flew out from the distorted space. In her hand was the sword energy released by Tong Tian. Bang, with a light pinch, the sword chi exploded and disappeared. It was a woman. She was dressed in a lotus dress and wore a lotus crown on her head. Her pure white skin was as bright as agar. There was not a single flaw to be found on her exquisite face. It looked like a lotus flower that had sprouted from the mud, so beautiful that it was suffocating. She was none other than Venerable Qinglian, who was also a lotus flower in Sun Hao's former lotus pond. Young master. She looked at Sun Hao, who was restrained, and 2 lines of tears fell down. Hearing this, Sun Hao's body trembled. With all his might, he stared at Venerable Qinglian with widened eyes. An incomparable sense of familiarity surged through his body. This sense of familiarity was innate. There was an indescribable and indescribable feeling. You are? Sun Hao asked. Young master, you can just call me Little Lotus, said Reverend Green Lotus. Miss Shaolian, why do I have a sense of familiarity with you? Sun Hao asked. When Supremacy Green Lotus heard this, she cried tears of joy. Young master, now is not the time to talk. I will tell you everything in the future. Please wait a moment, I'll get you out immediately. At this point, Venerable Green Lotus's expression changed. A cold killing intent surged through the void and enveloped Tao Ancestor Hong Jun and Sect Master Tong Tian. How could you do such a thing? Don't you know that he is? Before Supremacy Green Lotus could finish speaking, Tao Ancestor Hong Jun attacked first. Cut the crap. Come, let's fight. Tao Ancestor Hong Jun waved his horsetail whisk and pounced towards Supremacy Green Lotus. Humph! Venerable Green Lotus coldly snorted. He released his aura and the 2 of them started fighting. Boom! Light waves from the explosion continued to spread out. The surrounding void was rapidly rupturing. For a time, the 2 of them were locked in a fierce battle. Tong Tian, on the other hand, stood where he was, his expression changing. His mind seemed to have been influenced by Venerable Qinglian, and he did not make a move. Kill them! When the Heavenly Dharch recovered, he pointed at the army imprisoned in place and roared. This sound rose. Kill! The sounds of killing shook the heavens. Hundreds of thousands of holy venerate experts charged at the 100-million-strong army like a flood. Sun Hao's hundreds of millions of troops could only watch this scene helplessly. Damn it! Sun Hao roared, madly squeezing every bit of power in his body. However, the 4 Zhu Xian swords were too terrifying, and he couldn't break free at all. Looking at the changes in Sun Hao's appearance, the Heavenly Dharch laughed heartily. Haha, Tao Ancestor, you also have this day? Isn't this feeling of helplessness very unpleasant? This Emperor wants you to see the scene of hundreds of millions of people being slaughtered. These ants are ants, what's the use of keeping them? You're the only one who would keep them alive. At this point, the Heavenly Dharch laughed again. On the other side, Buddha Tathagata walked to Sun Wukong with a smile on his face. He looked at them with a playful face. Do you have anything to say? Old man Tathagata, don't be complacent. If you have the guts, let go of me, old Sun, and fight fair and square? Sun Wukong roared. Fair and square? Cold laughter sounded. Buddha Tathagata stretched out his palm, aimed at Sun Wukong and pressed it down. On the other side, Taishang Laojun looked at Su Yiling with a playful smile on his face. Little doll, can you say your last words? Taishang Laojun said. Dead old man, let go of me, or I will eat you again. Su Yiling roared. Taishang Laojun smiled slightly, deep wrinkles covering his face. Little doll, you're wrong. Now it's the old man's turn to eat you. The old man will refine you into a top-grade holy pill, and then swallow you in one gulp. Speaking of this, Taishang Laojun let out a burst of wild laughter. Buzz, with a wave of his right hand, an 8 trigrams furnace flew out. It turned into a large cauldron, lying across the void. Then, Taishang Laojun stretched out his big hand and grabbed Su Yiling. Scenes like this were staged throughout the battlefield. The faces of hundreds of millions of troops were full of unwillingness. They could only watch these shocking means bombarding, and they were powerless to do anything, seeing that the army brought by Sun Hao was about to be annihilated. At this time, Buzz, the void trembled and bursts of light flickered. A shield quickly condensed and formed, covering everyone. Boom, shocking explosions sounded constantly. The shield kept twisting. Those who attacked the hundreds of millions of troops were sent flying by the countershock force, and they fell dizzy. How is this possible? Buddha Lord Tathagata looked at the front in astonishment, with a face of disbelief. Impossible. Taishang Laojun narrowed his eyes and looked at the void. He couldn't help but feel his scalp explode, and cold sweat flowed. Aren't you dead? Heaven Emperor looked at the void, his voice trembled and his face was stunned. Only to see. In the void, a figure quickly walked out. Each of these figures exuded the aura of the holy, venerable realm. These people had all appeared in ancient myths and legend. Shun Gongbao, the three heavenly goddesses, Zhao Gongming, goddess of golden spirit. These characters died in the conferred god battle. And at this moment all of them appeared here. Zhao Gongming stepped out and looked at Heaven Emperor coldly. You villains framed us. Today I'm here to settle accounts with you. Humph! Shun Gongbao snorted coldly and stood in front of Buddha Lord Tathagata. Child, for your own strength, you betrayed my sect and killed my people. Today, no one can save you. They stood up one by one. Pointing at the crowd, their faces were full of cold, killing intent. Heaven Emperor looked up to the sky and laughed, pointing at Zhao Gongming and the others. Do you think you can resist us with just the few of you? You don't see, your master is also standing on our side at this moment. A wise man submits to circumstances. If you are sensible, surrender quickly, and this emperor can let bygones be bygones. Heaven Emperor's voice was like a roar, clearly reaching everyone's ears. Hearing this, the faces of Zhao Gongming and the others were full of killing intent. Chapter 683. Motherf * King Bullshit. Motherf * King Bullshit. Zhao Gongming pointed at the Heavenly Emperor and burst out a swear word. You villains, how can we believe you? Today, all of you will hand over your lives here. Zhao Gongming let out a roar. Immediately, Kacha, the sound of eggshells cracking rang out. The shackles that bound hundreds of millions of troops all broke apart. Everyone, at this moment, regained their freedom. Puff, Hongjun Dao Ancestor suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom, Venerable Qing Lian took advantage of the situation and directly blasted Hongjun Dao Ancestor's chest. Immediately, Hongjun Dao Ancestor's body flew backward, and it took a long time to stabilize his figure. His face was pale, and he pointed at Venerable Qing Lian. You actually set up the heaven-sealing great formation. When did this happen? Venerable Qing Lian smiled coldly and pointed at Hongjun Dao Ancestor. Just 1,000 years ago. What? Hongjun Dao Ancestor kept shaking his head, unwilling to believe these words. Aren't you only a remnant soul left? How did you recover? How could you set up this formation under the eyes of the heavenly slaves? Then all of this thanks to the young master. Speaking of this, Venerable Qing Lian blinked his eyes. A ray of light directly blasted on the 4 Zhuxian swords. Buzz, Sun Hao exerted force at the same time, and suddenly the Zhuxian swords kept trembling. They were knocked away fiercely. At this moment, Sun Hao also regained his freedom. Young master, are you okay? Venerable Qing Lian flew to Sun Hao and asked with a worried face. I'm fine. Sun Hao shook his head slightly. Young master, you must go to the chaotic starfield as soon as possible. It will be too late if you are late. Here, we have already set up the heaven-sealing great formation, and we can send you to the entrance. The dark taboo is moving the entrance secretly, you must hurry. After speaking, Venerable Qing Lian waved his right hand, and a teleportation vortex appeared in front of Sun Hao. I'm gone, what will you do? Sun Hao asked. Young master, don't worry about us. Venerable Qing Lian smiled, walked to Sun Hao and hugged him tightly. Your chest is still so warm. Secretly wiping away the tears in her eyes, Venerable Green Lotus struggled out of Sun Hao's embrace. Young master, as you can see, My strength is already at the Saint Emperor realm. I have the strength to fight Tao Ancestor Hongjun. Even if we're no match, as long as you're fine, can't you resurrect us? Venerable Green Lotus said. Sun Hao listened to this, and his whole face changed. Above the void, when Tao Ancestor Hongjun saw this teleportation vortex, his expression changed drastically. He pointed at Sun Hao and shouted, Junior brother, what are you still doing? Hurry up and make your move. If it's too late, it will be too late. Tao Ancestor Hongjun's voice was like thunder, causing Grandmaster Tongtian's body to tremble. A trace of clarity returned to his eyes. Buzz, the 4 Zhu Xian swords trembled, in an instant, blocked in front of the teleportation vortex. Seeing this, Supremacy Qinglian waved her sleeve. Buzz, the 2 lotus flowers flew away quickly. Ding, they collided with the Zhu Xian swords and burst into flames. For a while, there was no winner or loser. Master! Why can't you figure it out? The last Great Tribulation used you, and now it's using you again. Why haven't you woken up yet? The destruction of our entire Jie sect was secretly planned by Tao Ancestor Hongjun. Why do you still listen to him now? Do you want to see us all die tragically in front of you now? Zhao Gongming and the others flew to Grandmaster Tongtian and cried bitterly. Hearing these words, Grandmaster Tongtian's expression changed. The immortal slaying sword formation that he controlled was also buzzing and trembling. It seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Seeing this scene, the corner of Tao Ancestor Hongjun's mouth twitched, and his figure flashed, instantly disappearing in place. When he appeared again, he was already standing in front of Zhao Gongming. Baby teeth, dare to confuse the public with evil words, die. Tao Ancestor Hongjun waved his horsetail whisk and aimed at Zhao Gongming. Immediately, boom, Zhao Gongming's head cracked, and he died tragically on the spot. Zhao Gongming didn't react from beginning to end, and even the corner of his mouth raised a smile of relief. Seeing this scene, the corner of Grandmaster Tongtian's mouth twitched slightly, and his expression was extremely ugly. In the corner of his eyes, 2 tears slipped down. That twisted expression seemed to be making a difficult decision. Master, eldest senior brother is dead. He was killed by him. Did you see that? This old thing doesn't put you in his eyes at all. In his eyes, you're just a waste that's being used. A group of people from Jie sect pointed at Tao Ancestor Hongjun and scolded him. A group of people who deceive the public with evil words. There's nothing to be afraid of, die. With a wave of the horsetail whisk, Tao Ancestor Hongjun killed 2 people again. Damn it. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao's face twisted, and without thinking, he rushed forward. However, boom, there was a loud noise. The horsetail whisk hit Sun Hao, causing his head to roar, and his face to turn pale. His body was like a kite with a broken string, flying quickly in the void. Swoosh, the long ribbon was like silk, quickly wrapped around Sun Hao's body, pulling him in front of him. It was Venerable Qinglian who made the move. Young master, you are not this old man's opponent. Young master, my strength is also temporary, and I can't support it for long. Don't think about it, find a chance later and go to the chaotic star territory, otherwise we will all die here. Venerable Qinglian's voice revealed endless worry. Hearing this, Sun Hao closed his eyes and nodded slightly. Tao Ancestor Hongjun flashed left and right, and with a wave of the horsetail whisk, he could kill 1 person. In front of Tao Ancestor Hongjun, the people of Jie sect had no power to fight at all. In other words, they were not afraid of death at all. They used their own death to stimulate Grandmaster Tongtian and let him make a choice. Junior brother Tongtian, don't be confused by them. This kind of betrayal with evil words, this old man will clean up your sect for you. If you want to thank this old man, just give this old man an immortal slaying sword. Tao Ancestor Hongjun said with a smile, waving the horsetail whisk and taking away the lives of the Jie sect disciples. Every time he waved the horsetail whisk, it would make Grandmaster Tongtian's body tremble. His face was getting redder and redder, and his painful appearance was indescribable in words. A roar resounded through heaven and earth. Grandmaster Tongtian's eyes were about to crack, and he let out a roar. He controlled the immortal slaying sword and rushed straight to Dao Ancestor Hongjun, seeing that he was about to suppress Dao Ancestor Hongjun in place. At this time, stab, the sound of flesh and blood piercing into the body sounded. 7 sharp arrows pierced into the forehead of Grandmaster Tongtian. He stared blankly at his forehead, his face full of unwillingness. Haha! Dao Ancestor Hongjun looked up to the sky and laughed, as if he was crazy. He pointed at Grandmaster Tongtian and said, "Junior brother, the Lord had long predicted that you would betray, so he let Junior brother secretly take action. Sure enough, now you can die in peace. This immortal slaying sword array, this old man will keep it for you, and it will definitely be carried forward." Dao Ancestor Hongjun held the 4 immortal slaying swords, and his voice was full of pride. Chapter 684. Lu Yu sect leader Tongtian pointed at a cyan-robed old man and opened his mouth, but he couldn't finish his words. Then, his body softly fell to the ground. He died tragically on the spot. "Young master, this is a good chance, quick!" Qinglian pushed Sun Hao out. Watching, Sun Hao got into the teleportation ripple. At this moment, Daoist Lu Ya's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Sun Hao. He turned his face away, not daring to look at Sun Hao's eyes. Then, he stretched out his finger and pointed at Sun Hao's eyebrows. Buzz! Sun Hao's mind trembled, and his body flew out uncontrollably. "Young master!" Venerable Qinglian quickly flew up and hugged Sun Hao. She stared at Daoist Lu Ya and Dao Ancestor Hongjun with fear. "Kid, you don't have a chance. You want him to enter the Chaos Starfield? In your dreams." Dao Ancestor Hongjun pointed at Supremacy Green Lotus with a smile. However, Buzz, heaven and earth shook. A sharp claw that blotted out the sky descended from the void. This sharp claw was the combined attack of hundreds of millions of soldiers. Seeing this sharp claw, Dao Ancestor Hongjun's expression changed drastically. Without a second thought, he hurriedly summoned a protective technique to envelop his entire body. The other side, Supremacy Qinglian let out a furious roar as faint red flames ignited all over her body. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into a lotus flower. Every lotus petal emitted a metallic luster. Swish, the lotus spun quickly, releasing billions of rays of divine light, rushing towards Lu Ya. "Young master, hurry!" A shout resounded in Sun Hao's ears. Ding! Supremacy Green Lotus and Daoist Lu Ya fought. Or rather, Daoist Lu Ya extended a hand and gripped the lotus flower tightly. No matter how hard she tried, she could not hurt Daoist Lu Ya. However, she temporarily blocked Daoist Lu Ya. The entrance to the Chaos Star territory just appeared in front of Sun Hao. Seeing this entrance, Sun Hao did not hesitate and rushed to the entrance for the first time. No, Dao Ancestor Hongjun's expression changed drastically when he sensed this scene, and he roared loudly. "Damn it!" Daoist Lu Ya's face was filled with anger. Swish! He quickly used the immortal slaying flying saber. Bang! It nailed Supremacy Qinglian's body, directly shattering her body. Pooh! Supremacy Qinglian turned into a human and spat out blood. A smile appeared on his pale face, because she saw that Sun Hao was about to rush into the entrance of the chaotic star territory. Everything was worth it. "You're late." Supremacy Qinglian's face was full of smiles. Die! The immortal slaying flying saber flew over again and penetrated Supremacy Qinglian's glabella. Her body slowly fell to the ground. Even in death, his face was full of smiles, and he died very peacefully. Sun Hao's tone choked and he couldn't say a word. Rage surged in his chest, as if it was about to explode. The extreme pain surged into his heart. However, he did not slow down. Instead, he sped up quite a bit, seeing that Sun Hao was about to rush into the entrance of the Chaos Star territory. At this moment, buzz! There was a shock, and suddenly layers of ripples shook at the entrance, like a shield blocking in front of Sun Hao. Bang! He punched, but Sun Hao was knocked back again and again. Phew! The void trembled, and the world changed color. A huge black shadow enveloped the entire void. It absorbed all the light around it cleanly. Bang! The sky-covering claws that attacked Tao Ancestor Hong Jun were as brittle as thin paper in front of this black shadow, and they directly burst apart. Puff! Hundreds of millions of troops suffered a backlash of power and vomited blood. There were even many weaker people whose bodies exploded directly and exploded into blood mist. No, young master hasn't gone in yet, we are useless. Young master, I'm sorry. Many people shed tears of unwillingness before they died. Apologies were written all over everyone's face. Sensing the darkness in the void, Sun Hao couldn't help but clench his fists, revealing a face of unwillingness. The feeling of not being able to resist at all surged all over his body. Dark taboo? Sun Hao tried his best to look at the black shadow. However, he couldn't see the whole picture at all. He could only see that the darkness was a human-shaped snake tail. The surging aura shook out from its body. It enveloped the 9 heavens and 10 earth. All the stars in the surroundings seemed to be hiding in fear of this black shadow. Greetings, Lord. Tao Ancestor Hong Jun, Taoist Luya, Celestial Emperor, Taishang Laojun, Buddha Tathagata. These peerless big shots, at this moment, knelt on the ground one by one, kowtowing to the black shadow. Worship and awe were written all over everyone's faces. The black shadow didn't speak, just staring at Sun Hao. Suddenly, the hairs on Sun Hao's back stood up. Endless fear, like black ants all over the sky, crawled all over his body. It's over. After speaking, the huge black shadow stretched out a finger and pointed at Sun Hao. That terrifying power directly imprisoned the space around Sun Hao. Sun Hao used all his strength, but he couldn't break free. He could only watch that force blasted, and he was powerless to do anything. Is it really going to end like this? Sun Hao muttered to himself, his face full of unwillingness. Seeing that force was about to blast Sun Hao's body into powder. At this time, buzz! There was another shock in the void. A faint ray of light appeared from the void. When this ray of light appeared, it immediately shook away that power. Sun Hao looked at this light, like a boat sailing in the dark seeing a lighthouse. His heart was illuminated by this light. Hope was like a spark, quickly starting a prairie fire in his heart. He stared straight at this light, motionless. At this moment, everyone looked at this light, their faces full of doubts. Who? The light was getting brighter and brighter. In the light there was a woman. She wore the queen's crown on her head and held a scepter in her hand. The dazzling light was emitted from the jewel on the crown, dispelling the surrounding darkness. This woman had elf ears, and her skin was like agar, delicate and could be broken by blowing. She looked so beautiful that it was suffocating. This woman was none other than Huang Rumeng. Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumeng and couldn't help but widen his eyes. Rumeng? Young master. Huang Rumeng nodded slightly, her eyes swept, and stared directly at the dark taboo. Then, she waved the scepter in her hand and blasted it at the dark taboo. Whoosh! A dazzling white light directly blasted at the dark taboo. Squeak! A strange cry resounded through the world. The dark taboo's body struggled wildly as if suffering endless pain. At this time, the power that imprisoned everyone's body disintegrated. All the power that blocked in front of Sun Hao disappeared. Now, the entrance to the chaotic star territory appeared in front of Sun Hao. With just one step, Sun Hao could step into it. However, he did not move, but looked at Huang Rumeng as if he had 1,000 words to say. Young master, hurry up! Huang Rumeng's face showed a touch of anxiety. Beads of sweat rolled on her forehead as if she was trying her best to restrain the dark taboo. Hearing this, how could Sun Hao not understand? Without any hesitation, Sun Hao stepped forward and rushed into the entrance of the chaotic star territory. You dare! The dark taboo finally spoke the human language and made this sound. However, this sound did not slow down Sun Hao's pace. If you dare to escape, I will definitely kill them all. The threatening voice kept echoing in Sun Hao's mind. However, he couldn't hear a word after that, because he stepped into the entrance to the chaotic star territory. Buzz, a white light instantly wrapped Sun Hao. At the same time, Sun Hao fainted. Chapter 685. He didn't know how long it took. Maybe it was 10,000 years, maybe it was a second. Finally, at this moment, Sun Hao woke up slowly. He seemed to have had a long dream. He dreamed that everyone was killed by the dark taboo, but he could do nothing about it. That kind of unwilling roar kept ringing in his mind. This is... Sun Hao pressed his mind and looked around with a blank face. After taking a few deep breaths, Sun Hao gradually recovered. Right now, he was in a chaotic space. The surroundings were hazy, and he couldn't see clearly at all. You're awake. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Looking up, he saw a man looking at him with a smile on his face. This man looked handsome, and he was very stylish when he talked. The majestic power vibrated out of his body. However, his body was illusory, and it looked like a soul. You are. Sun Hao looked at the man and asked. Big brother, you don't remember me, I'm Dao Qingyang. The man ran over and hugged Sun Hao's shoulder, his face full of affection. Sun Hao's whole body was cold, and his whole body had goosebumps. Ha ha, seeing this scene, the man laughed. Big brother, I said that you, the reincarnated person, don't like men either. Look, he has goosebumps all over his body. Dao Qingyang said. Okay. At this moment, another voice sounded. Immediately afterward, another man appeared in front of Sun Hao. This man looked exactly the same as him. You are? Sun Hao looked at the man in front of him and asked. My name is Hao Tian, your previous life, and also the original spirit of creation. The man said. What? Sun Hao's eyes widened, showing a look of shock. In the myths and legends, the original spirit of creation was born from nothingness. Then, the original spirit of creation accepted 4 apprentices. They were Dao Ancestor Hong Jun Niuhua, Grandmaster Tongtian, and Taoist Luya. Every one of his disciples had extraordinary means and had become a big shot in their own right. Unexpectedly, in his previous life, he was so awesome. However, of his 4 apprentices, why did 3 of them betray and deal with him? Looking at Sun Hao's puzzled look, Hao Tian said. This matter has to start from thousands of years ago. After I took in 4 disciples, each of them took in quite a few more. And Hongjuan's disciple, Pangu, is even more powerful. He wasn't willing to be left out, so he used his great powers to open up the 3 realms. When Niuhua saw Pangu creating the world with his flesh and blood, she was moved and created all living beings. Hearing Hao Tian's words, Sun Hao nodded secretly, shocked. The fairy tales he had heard in his previous life were all true. After countless years of evolution, the 3 realms has become stronger and stronger. Countless experts were born there. However, compared to the real world, it does not possess the laws of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, I simulated the void of the real universe and created the heavenly Tao to control the operation of the 3 realms. Later on, I created the laws and stabilized the 3 realms. Everything is proceeding in an orderly manner. It would be great if everything was so perfect. However, man proposes, God disposes. In the real world of the universe, there are countless experts who are so powerful that it makes one's hair stand on end. One day, 2 universe experts came to the borders of the 3 realms to fight. That battle was simply the collapse of the 3 realms and the destruction of countless star fields. Hearing this, Sun Hao couldn't help but be shocked in place and couldn't calm down for a long time. Could it be that the cosmic giants I saw in my mind are the experts who exist in the real universe? Sun Hao asked. Yes, this should be a little of my memory that you felt. So I saw it. Haotian said. Hearing this, Sun Hao took a breath of cold air. All of this was simply too inconceivable. In that battle, the three realms were practically covered in cuts and bruises. Nuwa used her magic power to refine the divine sky-mending stone, and it took her 180 million years to completely repair the three realms. That's it, the three realms is not the same three realms as before. It has become extremely weak and will collapse at any time. In order to save the three realms, my 4 disciples have done their best, but it's still useless. When they lost hope, they found the corpses of 2 cosmic giants outside the 3 realms. Haotian said. What? Sun Hao trembled, and he couldn't help but widen his eyes. Such 2 terrifying cosmic giants were both dead? They tried to get close to the 2 cosmic giants. However, even if the cosmic giants were dead, it's not something they can get close to. The pressure produced made them unable to get close at all. However, this did not make them give up. On the contrary, their mood was even more excited. They felt that they only needed the residual energy in the corpse of a cosmic giant to give birth to a new 3 realms, 100 times stronger and more stable than before. So, they set their sights on me. Haotian said here, looking dispirited and sighing secretly. So you're saying that they attacked you? However, with your strength, how could they be your opponents? Sun Hao asked. Haotian looked dispirited and sighed secretly. I saw that they were busy with the 3 realms all day long, so I secretly mobilized my own power and condensed it into a 3 realms core. This is a collection of 99% of my whole body's power. I was preparing to place it in the center of the 3 realms to be responsible for the operation of the 3 realms. They made a move and they snatched my 3 realms core. After tens of thousands of years of war, with the lives of countless creatures, they finally won. They were about to win the 3 realms core. At this time, my brother Dao Qingyang appeared. Speaking of this, Haotian pointed to Dao Qingyang and said, Big brother, you don't have to be so polite, otherwise I will blush. Dao Qingyang scratched his head, showing a face of shame. Don't be so shy. Haotian patted Dao Qingyang's shoulder. What happened after they came? Sun Hao asked. Dao Qingyang knew that he was not their opponent when they joined forces, so he sacrificed his body and obtained all his strength to seal them one by one. Then, he sent a wisp of true essence I left and the 3 realms core into reincarnation. That's how you are now, Haotian said. Hearing this, Sun Hao showed a look of realization. So that's how it is. No wonder there was a colorful ball in his soul space. Presumably, that was the 3 realms core. That was the power of his previous life. It was no wonder that it was inexhaustible and inexhaustible. That's right, the colorful ball in your soul space is the 3 realms core. Later, it was Dao Qingyang who recondensed my remaining consciousness, which is the current me. Originally, he wanted me to occupy your body, but I thought about it and gave up. Chapter 686. After all, you are a new life form. If I occupy it, you will not be you. Little guy, I will tell you this much because there is not much time left. If it is any later, the 3 realms will be destroyed. Your body is too weak. Dao Qingyang and I will use this remaining power to refine your body. Only in this way can you accept the baptism of the core power of the 3 realms. Haotian said. What? Sun Hao shook his head for a while. You only have a little remnant soul left. In this case, you will be destroyed. Little fellow, we died a long time ago. We've been struggling at death's door all because we were waiting for you. There is no time, sit down quickly. A loud shout shook Sun Hao's head. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly sat cross-legged on the ground, showing a look of closing his eyes to cultivate. And Haotian and Dao Qingyang looked at each other and nodded at the same time. The two stretched out their hands and pressed them on Sun Hao's body. A surge of power quickly penetrated into Sun Hao's body. This is the fastest way to refine the body. It is a little painful, but you must endure it. After saying this, a surge of power quickly penetrated into Sun Hao's body. It was like a sharp blade cutting his flesh little by little. That kind of pain was simply painful to the bone. Is this a little painful? Sun Hao gritted his teeth and persisted. The pain made his whole face distorted. His fleshly body was rapidly becoming stronger. Time passed, and 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the pain in his body had disappeared completely. Now there was only comfort. Sun Hao was immersed in this comfortable feeling of physical improvement and couldn't extricate himself. He hoped to never stop and keep refining like this. Suddenly, the power disappeared, and the comfortable feeling disappeared completely. Not bad, this little guy's will is beyond imagination. He actually persisted for 10 years. This body is much stronger than ours back then. Haotian looked at Sun Hao and nodded with satisfaction. Yes, the 3 realms may be saved, Dao Qingyang said. Sun Hao slowly opened his eyes. When he saw the two, he couldn't help but look stunned. At this moment, the bodies of Haotian and Dao Qingyang were already extremely illusory, as if they would dissipate at any time. 2 seniors, you? Sun Hao looked at Haotian with a worried face. Little fellow, don't worry. You can now open the 3 realms core. The 2 of us can also leave safely. As they spoke, their figures gradually became illusory. Finally, with a pring sound, it dissipated. Seniors? Sun Hao stretched out his hand to touch their bodies and found that there was only nothingness. The 2 of them had already disappeared without a trace. You haven't told me how to open the core of the 3 realms, Sun Hao shouted. However, there was only silence in response. Looks like I can only rely on myself. Sun Hao nodded secretly, stretched out his palm and grabbed forward. Buzz, the void trembled. A teleportation vortex appeared in front of Sun Hao. Seeing this teleportation vortex, Sun Hao did not hesitate and directly stepped into it. On a certain planet in the abyss, in a verdant mountain range, there was a hidden pavilion. In front of the pavilion, 2 people, one old and one young, were sitting at the table, eating happily. These 2 people were none other than Yujizi, and a little loli he met in Xiang's star. This little loli had been given a name by Yujizi, Chuyu. Or rather, she was originally called this name. It's enough to eat so much. If you eat more, you will be fat, Yujizi said. Woo-woo. Chuyu showed a crying look, squeezed her tears with her hand, and didn't squeeze out a drop. Grandpa, you don't let me eat, I'm so hungry. AI. Hearing this, Yujizi sighed heavily. Well, you eat. He sent all the remaining delicious food to Chuyu. Chuyu started eating again, laughing without a care in the world. Buzz, suddenly, above the void, there was a sudden shock. Yujizi's gaze seemed to penetrate millions of miles away. He frowned, showing a dignified face. It seems that they have already started. The 3 realms is going to be finished. Yujizi's face changed slightly. Gradually, his whole person became incomparably firm. Little you, don't worry, I will protect you in this life. What does the life and death of the 3 realms have to do with me? Withdrawing his mood, Yujizi's expression stagnated. Looking at the color in front of him, his pupils shrank, and his face changed dramatically. It's you? Yujizi said. Yes, it's me. The person who came was a woman. She was dressed in purple, with an impressive figure and very stylish. She walked and twisted, with an extreme charm that made people unable to extricate themselves. If Sun Hao was here, he would definitely recognize this woman, because she was none other than Luo Luyan. What do you want from me? Yujizi showed a look of displeasure. I'm looking for you, don't you know? Why do you still ask when you already know? Luo Luyan said. Okay, I promise you, I won't get involved, Yujizi said. That's good. Luo Luoyan smiled and waved her right hand. The little loli's body flew out uncontrollably and fell into Luo Luoyan's hands. What do you want? Yujizi roared. What do I want? Luo Luoyan smiled slightly. Of course, I'm using her to threaten you. If you dare to make a move, she won't be able to live. You don't want to see her die like this, Luo Luoyan said with a smile. Grandpa, save me! Chu Yu struggled frantically, her body grabbing wildly. The void seemed to be torn apart. The claws grabbed Luo Luoyan's body, but there was no reaction. I hope you know it yourself. After saying that, Luo Luoyan took Chu Yu and quickly left, disappearing completely. Grandpa, only this sound was left at the scene. No, Yujizi let out a roar, and his anger seemed to fill his chest. Finally, he reluctantly let go of his hands. The human world, on a certain planet. In the sky, a long rainbow was flying around. Those long rainbows were the top powerhouses of this planet. At this moment, their faces were full of panic. Thick fear surged through everyone's heart. They seemed to be looking for a way out. They wanted to escape from this planet. However, the sky seemed to have turned into a lava purgatory, surrounded by heavenly fire. There was no way to escape. And on the planet, boom, the ground exploded and the magma spewed out. Wherever it was, it tore everything apart. Any life, in the face of this flow of magma, was fragile and had no resistance. A man let out a scream, and soon, he was drowned by the magma. The outstretched hand also quickly shriveled, and finally, it ignited a fire and burned to ashes. Such a scene was staged on the entire planet. Even if the strong cultivators had a body shield, it wouldn't last long. In the end, they couldn't escape the fate of ashes. The whole thing looked like a piece of lava from hell, terrifying to the extreme. Chapter 687. P.S. This chapter is the last chapter. It's a bit long, so I'll send it to everyone. Boom, with a loud bang, heaven and earth shook. Magma spurted out and exploded like a goddess scattering flowers. The immortal cultivators in the sky all melted into ashes without exception. No, the miserable death of the last immortal cultivator proved that the planet had completely become a waste planet. Boom, a deafening explosion resounded. The entire planet ruptured, exploding into lines of lava that danced in the air. Scenes like this played out on every planet. All the planets were slowly collapsing, turning into the most primitive energy that flew into the black hole and disappeared. The entrance to the realm of chaos. Few ripples suddenly appeared in the void, and a figure emerged from the ripples. This person was Sun Hao. His heart shuddered as he scanned his surroundings. A hint of heartache rose in his heart. This was the place where everyone had gone through everything to send themselves into the domain of chaos. They had risked their lives to enter the domain of chaos. It was because of this that he knew the truth. Rumling, Xiaolian, Qiansu, Shui Mei, many familiar figures appeared in his mind. Live. Sun Hao waved his right hand and used the resurrection technique. However, there was no reaction from the surroundings. The resurrection spell had failed. There were two possibilities. Firstly, too much time had passed. Secondly, no one was dead. Could it be that a long time has passed? Sun Hao muttered to himself, thinking secretly. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched, and his eyes widened as he looked in front of him. At some point, a woman had appeared in front of him. This woman was none other than Luo Luoyan. Miss Luoyan? Sun Hao looked at Luo Luoyan and asked. Young master? The corners of Luo Luoyan's mouth rose, revealing a smile that made people's hair stand up. You finally came out. I've been waiting for a long time. Luo Luoyan said with a smile. Wait. Sun Hao's face was full of doubts, frowning and thinking, pointing to Luo Luoyan, showing a sudden look. You are the Dark Taboo. You could say that, but I have another identity. She is also the Nuwa in the eyes of the world. After that, Luo Luoyan's body changed. He had a human body and a snake tail, and his body emitted a monstrous aura. 10-colored light radiated from her body. It looked incomparably sacred. Should I call you master or little fellow? Luoluyen, no, it should be more accurate to call it the dark taboo. She looked at Sun Hao, showing an expression of controlling everything. I believe you already know everything, the dark taboo said. Why? The 3 realms were clearly created by you. Why did you destroy it? Sun Hao looked at the dark taboo with a face full of doubts. Don't you know? As long as I gather the power of the 3 realms together, I will be able to seize the energy within the bodies of the 2 universe giants. Don't talk about creating a single 3 realms, even creating 100 of them wouldn't be a problem. Right now, the 3 realms are riddled with holes and can't bear the burden. I will create a brand new, beautiful 3 realms. How would you understand such a beautiful wish? That's true. You're not him, and he's not you. None of you can understand me. At this point, 2 streams of tears flowed down the corners of the darkness taboo's eyes. She walked towards Sun Hao step by step. He waved his right hand. Buzz, a touch of terrifying power enveloped Sun Hao. This force was so powerful that he couldn't resist at all. It was 10,000 times stronger than when he encountered the Black Shadow before. How could such a powerful force not stop him from entering the Chaos Star Field? Then there was only one possibility. It was she who let him in. Thinking of this, Sun Hao's eyes widened, and he pointed at the dark taboo. You have such strength. Why didn't you stop me from entering the Chaos Star Field? The dark taboo smiled slightly, looked at Sun Hao and said, Little guy, don't you understand? Because the key to all events is on you. Look. The dark taboo waved her right hand. The scene of the 3 realms void poured into Sun Hao's eyes. He saw. The planet was collapsing, turning into the most primitive energy and being swallowed by the black hole. After being swallowed by the black hole, all the energy actually poured into his soul space. And it was the core of the 3 realms. All the creatures in the soul space were affected by this energy storm and were struggling to support themselves. Some of the weaker ones were blown into powder and disappeared without a trace. Boom, the sound of explosions kept ringing in the soul space. Sun Hao was horrified to find that the planet in the soul space was exploding rapidly. All the energy, as if returning to one, quickly poured into the core of the 3 realms. No, Sun Hao let out an unwilling roar. His whole face was twisted and deformed, extremely ugly. Little guy, you should also find that you are the core. I sent you into the Chaos Star Field to let you refine your body. Do you want to ask why I stopped you, and it seems to be at any cost? Because if I send you in easily, how can those 2 old guys easily refine your body for you? Only if you have a strong enough body can you support this power. At that time, you will be the most proud treasure that I have refined. The dark taboo stroked Sun Hao's face as if looking at an ultimate treasure. His eyes were full of love. Sun Hao opened his mouth and was unable to speak. This feeling of being controlled was really uncomfortable. He felt that he was being controlled from birth. Moreover, he had no power to resist. The energy in the soul space was gathering more and more. The surrounding planets were collapsing rapidly. All life had disappeared without a trace. No, Sun Hao watched his acquaintances die one by one and let out an unwilling roar. Little guy, do you think it's useful to put them in the soul space? I tell you, they are all created by me. It's useless to hide anywhere. The dark taboo looked at Sun Hao with a smile and said. Her eyes were fixed on the core of the 3 realms. She was waiting for the change in the core of the 3 realms. Gotcha! The sound of an egg-shell cracking sounded. Above the core of the 3 realms, cracks appeared. White light bloomed from the gap. Immediately afterward, the entire core of the 3 realms turned white. The entire soul space was brightly lit up. Sun Hao's mouth, eyes, nose all bloomed with white light as if about to burst. Seeing this scene, the dark taboo's eyes emitted infinite light. He waved his right hand. A dazzling red light bloomed from his fingertips, enveloping Sun Hao. Sun Hao, who was about to burst, was gradually stabilized by the pincer attack of the two forces. His physical body was becoming stronger rapidly under the pincer attack of these two forces. Time flew by. In a blink of an eye, it had been 1,000 years. The dark taboo retracted her right hand and pressed her chest, revealing an ugly expression. However, soon she recovered her smile. Because Sun Hao's physical body had been tempered and had reached the level of a supreme innate holy treasure. The degree of terror was unimaginable. With it, I can go and seize the physical body of that cosmic giant. The corner of the dark taboo's mouth rose, and she stretched out her hand, preparing to seize Sun Hao's physical body. Suddenly, Sun Hao opened his eyes, and 2 rays of light burst out. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and smashed it directly on the dark taboo's face. This protruding fist blasted the dark taboo back several steps. How can your consciousness still be here? The dark taboo pointed at Sun Hao with a look of disbelief. This is thanks to you for tempering my physical body. Now I can really exert the strength of the core of the 3 realms. Sun Hao did not explain and rushed forward directly. Boom! The two fought together in an instant. The void continued to crack. The star field was destroyed. The degree of terror was indescribable. I don't know how long it took. Boom! The universe shook. Sun Hao punched the dark taboo until she vomited blood, and her face was pale. The dark taboo's aura was getting weaker and weaker. She pointed at Sun Hao, "Don't force me!" Boom! What answered her was just a punch from Sun Hao. Seeing Sun Hao attack again, the dark taboo waved her right hand, and a woman was directly twisted in her hand. This person was none other than Lu Xiao. "Your lover is in my hands. If you dare to move again, I will kill her. I tell you, she is your lover in your previous life. She is not under the control of the 3 realms. If you kill her, it will be extremely difficult to resurrect her." The dark taboo looked at Sun Hao and seemed to have caught his weakness. Sun Hao clenched his fists, showing a face of resentment. "What do you want?" Sun Hao clenched his teeth. What do you think? If your consciousness leaves this body immediately, I will let her go," the dark taboo said. Sun Hao's chest stagnated. If he gave up his body, he would die. There was no accident. If he didn't give up, then Lu Xiao would die. While Sun Hao was hesitating, "Gotcha!" the sound of an egg-shell cracking sounded. The power that bound Lu Xiao's body suddenly disintegrated. Hao, don't believe her. My soul has been divided into 3 parts by her. As long as one person is resurrected, there will be a chance to resurrect the 3 of us. Hao, see you in the next life." Lu Xiao finished these words at an extremely fast speed, and her body collapsed and exploded into powder. She disappeared completely, and nothing was left. Seeing this scene, the dark taboo stood dumbfounded. "It's really tenacious. However, do you think it's over like this?" After speaking, the dark taboo waved her right hand. Buzz, the void trembled, and the space kept twisting. In a teleportation vortex, a heavenly pillar slowly fell. The power on this heavenly pillar was simply earth-shattering and terrifying. The terrifying power pressed on Sun Hao, and he had to retreat. He looked at the heavenly pillar with a face full of fear. This is? Sun Hao frowned and couldn't help but widen his eyes. The dark taboo waved her right hand and concentrated on controlling this heavenly pillar. She looked at Sun Hao's surprised expression, and the corner of her mouth raised. She pointed her right hand. Buzz, there was a shock. Sun Hao's body flew out upside down. His whole person was pressed to the ground, unable to move. Puff, a mouthful of blood spurted from Sun Hao's mouth. He looked at the black heavenly pillar, and his eyes widened, extremely surprised. On the black heavenly pillar, runes were densely covered. The terrifying power was emitted from these runes. These powers squeezed his body, and he couldn't move at all. What the hell is this? Sun Hao asked. The dark taboo stood up and looked at Sun Hao with a smile on her face. Do you know those two cosmic giants? The dark taboo said. You mean, this is one of their hairs? Sun Hao asked. Yes. The dark taboo nodded slightly. You don't know, I used the lives of Big Brother and Little Brother in exchange for this hair. They are my brothers who have been with me for countless years. Speaking of this, 2 lines of tears slipped from the corners of the dark taboo's eyes. What? Dao Ancestor Hong Jun and Taoist Lu Ye were killed by you? How could you do it? Sun Hao looked at the dark taboo and said. So I am very sad. Speaking of this, the dark taboo's face gradually became firm. However, for a better 3 realms, their sacrifice is worth it. The dark taboo's mind moved, and the giant heavenly pillar shrank rapidly. It turned into a strand of hair and returned to the dark taboo's hand. Buzz with a light wave. A terrifying force quickly shrouded Sun Hao. In an instant, it blasted on him. Boom! The void trembled, and Sun Hao's figure disappeared. When the surroundings returned to calm, Sun Hao's figure was not seen. How is this possible? The dark taboo's face changed slightly, and her divine thoughts were released, covering the entire void for hundreds of millions of miles, but she did not find Sun Hao's figure. Suddenly, the dark taboo raised her eyebrows, looked back, and her pupils shrank. She saw. Sun Hao had appeared behind her at some point. In his right hand, he held a finger and blasted it toward the dark taboo. Boom! There was an explosion. The dark taboo's body crumbled into powder and disappeared completely. However, at this level, the dark taboo quickly condensed and formed. Her face was a little pale, as if she had suffered a serious injury. She looked at the finger in Sun Hao's hand, her pupils contracted, and her face changed drastically. Your finger is also the cosmic giant's? The dark taboo's voice trembled with fear. Sun Hao smiled slightly and looked at the dark taboo. You are allowed to snatch the body of the cosmic giant, but I am not allowed to snatch it? How can you snatch it? The dark taboo looked incredulous. You don't need to know this. Sun Hao clenched his fingers and pointed forward. Buzz, all kinds of ancient runes on his fingers quickly lit up. The surging aura quickly shook out. In an instant, it enveloped the dark taboo. Buzz, on the hair in the dark taboo's hand, a dazzling light lit up, producing an incomparably terrifying power, quickly blocking Sun Hao's attack. However, how could the hair be compared with the finger? The hair in the dark taboo's hand was cracking rapidly. In the end, it completely disappeared. No, an unwilling roar sounded. Buzz, a terrifying force directly enveloped the dark taboo. Immediately, the stars around the universe were collapsing rapidly, and the terrifying powerlessness spread around. Boom! The dark taboo was shrouded by this energy, and her body cracked again, turning into light and shadow, disappearing completely. It took a long time for her to condense again. She looked up to the sky and spat out a mouthful of black gas quickly. The dark taboo's whole face was extremely pale. Under the shroud of this force, her body was cracking rapidly. Seeing that her whole body was about to break apart. At this time, the power on Sun Hao's finger stopped abruptly. Sun Hao's face was pale, and he quickly put away his finger. The power of this giant's finger was too terrifying. The power of the 3 realms could only be resisted. However, fortunately, the dark taboo was seriously injured. Now, as long as she was killed, then everything would be over. Sun Hao took a few long breaths, adjusted his state, and walked toward the dark taboo step by step. The dark taboo looked at Sun Hao, opened her mouth, and didn't say a word. Even if her body cracked and her whole body was bleeding, she didn't have the slightest fear. Do you have anything to say? Sun Hao looked at the dark taboo, and his killing intent surged. Do you think it's over? No, this is just the beginning. The corners of the dark taboo's mouth raised, and her face showed a confident smile of controlling everything. In front of her, a little girl suddenly appeared. "Help me, help me!" This little girl struggled frantically and kept shouting. This person was none other than Chuyu, who was with Yujizi. Like Yujizi, she was a law created by Haotian. She was in charge of the operation of the Three Realms laws. However, during the last Dark Age, she was stripped out by the Dark Taboo, and she had no memory. Moreover, in her body, the Dark Taboo planted a secret technique. As long as the Dark Taboo thought about it, it could extract the power from her body. No, not far away, Yujizi looked at this scene, and his pupils shrank and his face changed drastically. "Let go! Don't hurt her!" However, the Dark Taboo was unmoved. For the new Three Realms, her sacrifice is worth it. The Dark Taboo was full of smiles. "You crazy woman, let her go!" Yujizi let out a roar. However, the Dark Taboo was unmoved, and she didn't even take Yujizi's words to heart. "Crazy woman, don't force me!" Yujizi roared loudly. It was still useless. The Dark Taboo gently clenched her fist and grabbed Chuyu's head. "No, Kacha!" Two sounds resounded through the void and went straight into the soul. It shook the void and made it tremble. Chuyu's body broke apart little by little. It scattered into billions of rays of light and went straight into the Dark Taboo's body. "This is the law of the Three Realms. You have the power of the Three Realms, but no law. So, your power is mine." Just after saying this, Sun Hao's body trembled violently, as if convulsing crazy. The power in his body flew out uncontrollably and quickly flew into the Dark Taboo's body. What a pure power! The Dark Taboo closed her eyes, revealing a look of enjoyment. On the other side, "You bully me and humiliate me, I can bear it. If you want to destroy the world, it has nothing to do with me. If you want to reshape the Three Realms, I don't care. In order to avoid you, I sealed my memory and turned into a selfish villain. The fact that the old capital avoids you doesn't mean that the old capital is afraid of you. Today you dare to kill you. This hatred is irreconcilable, I want you to die." Yujizi roared loudly, as if he was crazy. He rushed straight to the Dark Taboo. Kacha, the void collapsed, and endless turbulence spurted out. The heavenly Tao turned into a divine chain and went straight to the Dark Taboo. It looked extremely terrifying. However, there was a shock. The Dark Taboo just waved her hand lightly, and Yujizi's body flew out like a kite with a broken string. Puff! He was in the sky, scattering a rain of blood. He was not an opponent at all. "You are just the heavenly Tao. Now I have the law, plus the power of the Three Realms. How can you be my opponent? If you don't want to die, don't move, otherwise this seat will swallow you clean too." The words of the Dark Taboo, like a silver needle, stabbed into Yujizi's heart. His eyes were blood-red, and his eyes were about to crack. The whole person was on the verge of collapse. You died so miserably." 2 lines of tears fell gently from the corners of Yujizi's eyes. He closed his eyes, revealing a relieved smile. "Forget it, since this life and you are not fated. If there is an afterlife, you and I will meet again. As for you, don't even think about succeeding." Yujizi looked at the Dark Taboo, and the monstrous killing intent was contained in it. Boom! There was a sound. Yujizi's body directly burst apart. His body turned into billions of great Tao, like billions of dancing butterflies, entwined into billions of divine chains of order, and quickly flew towards Sun Hao. "You dare!" The Dark Taboo roared, wanting to stop it, but it was too late. Puff! The sound of piercing into flesh and blood sounded. These divine chains of order were quickly destroying into Sun Hao's body. Buzz! Every time it entered, Sun Hao's body would tremble. At this moment, the loss of power in his body was getting slower and slower. Sacrifice, right? With this seat here, how can I let you do as you wish?" The Dark Taboo revealed a smug smile, stretched out his right hand and waved it quickly. Buzz, the void trembled. The remaining divine chains of order quickly flew towards the dark taboo. These divine chains of order were constantly struggling, but how could they be the opponent of the dark taboo? Seeing that the dark taboo was about to devour them all. At this time, Buzz, there was a tremor. The dark taboo's head was like being hit hard, and his whole mind was rippling. Silly child, enough. A loud shout shook the world slightly. A phantom slowly condensed and formed. It was the remnant soul of Hautian. Looking at this phantom, the dark taboo's face showed anger. Old man, you are still not dead yet. You spoiled my plans, go to hell. After speaking, the dark taboo waved his right hand. Immediately, boom, there was an explosion, and the remnant soul of Hautian disappeared completely. At this moment, the divine chains of order transformed by the great Tao all drilled into Sun Hao's body. It disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Gotcha, the sound of an eggshell cracking rang out, as the divine chains of order drilled into the core of the three realms. Some kind of taboo above the core of the three realms directly broke apart. Endless power quickly poured into Sun Hao's limbs and bones. Buzz, Sun Hao opened his eyes, and two rays of light burst out. I understand. He looked at the dark taboo, the corners of his mouth raised, revealing an expression of understanding everything. You know nothing, go to hell for this seat. The dark taboo mobilized all its power and enveloped Sun Hao. However, Sun Hao's figure gradually disappeared without a trace. In front of her, there was only endless darkness. Is this the truth of time and space? How could he comprehend it? No, an unwilling roar resounded through the void and lingered for a long time. As swish, Sun Hao stepped forward step by step, and time and space passed quickly in his ears. At this moment, he was stepping on the footsteps of time and space, going against the current. Soon, he returned to thousands of years ago. At this moment, he had not been reborn and lived on Earth, on the main street of a certain city. Sun Hao's previous life was stepping on a stone with a face of grievance. Why am I so sad, God? Looking at his previous life, the corners of Sun Hao's mouth rose, and he slowly walked towards him. However, Gotcha, between heaven and earth, it seemed to be collapsing rapidly. The whole city was buzzing and trembling as if it was about to collapse. Not good, I can't be too close to myself, otherwise it will cause the collapse of time and space. Even the current me will be injured. Sun Hao hurried away. The world trembled before it returned to calm again. However, in his previous life, because of this tremor, he was killed by a telephone pole. Sun Hao's eyes widened. It turned out that this was how he died. No wonder he suddenly appeared in that world. Not good. Sun Hao's mind moved, and a treasure condensed and formed. It quickly flew toward the soul of his previous life, and brought him to Xiang's star. Then, he secretly set up a system for him and passed all the abilities he had learned to him. By the way, it's time for him to meet Brother Ning. Rumming should also come. And Sun Hao was like a passerby, constantly helping himself secretly. Time passed, and soon it was the moment when Sun Hao came to the Xianming Sea. Rumming only has one soul, no wonder he can't be found in the Xianming Sea. Then I will steal him out directly. Thinking like this, Sun Hao's mind moved. The void trembled, and Huang Ruming's crystal coffin flew out directly. It came to Sun Hao's hand. Rumring. Looking at Huang Ruming, Sun Hao seemed to have 1,000 words. He disappeared with the crystal coffin. Not long after he disappeared. A black shadow quickly condensed and formed. He looked at the position where Sun Hao disappeared, and the corner of his mouth raised a cruel smile. Little guy, do you think I can't do anything to you if you realize the truth of time and space? I can use the law of time and space to track you down. I want to take away your lover from your previous life. This black shadow was no one else but the dark taboo. She moved her mind and also used the secret method. Soon, she opened Sun Hao's soul space, looking at everything inside. He is? Why does he look so much like him? In that case, I will take you away too. What she saw was Sun Wukong, who, with a wave of her right hand, she took Lu Xiao and Sun Wukong and instantly disappeared in place. In front of Sun Hao, the crystal coffin slowly opened. Huang Ruming's body slowly rose and floated in front of Sun Hao. With your strength, there should be no problem in reshaping Ruming's soul, right? Sun Hao held the giant finger and his face condensed. With a move of his mind, the giant finger exuded a strange light. Wisps of white light quickly drilled into Huang Ruming's eyebrows. These terrifying forces were rapidly transforming Huang Ruming's body and strengthening her strength. Time passed little by little. A few hours later, Huang Ruming woke up faintly. She looked at Sun Hao, showing a look of disbelief. Young master? Are you also? It's okay, you're alive. Sun Hao smiled slightly. Alive? Young master, did you save me? Huang Ruming looked at Sun Hao with a blank face, threw herself into his arms, and cried. Ruming, in fact, I am now from the future. Sun Hao told her about his own affairs. Huang Ruming listened carefully, and tears streamed down her face. Her moved appearance was indescribable in words. Young master, you have paid too much for me. Ruming really has no way to repay you. Huang Ruming buried her head in Sun Hao's chest, letting the tears slide. For a long time, she calmed down a little. Young master, Ruming doesn't want to be a useless person. Let Ruming do something for you? Huang Ruming looked at Sun Hao and said. Of course, there are many things to do, such as saving people. Sun Hao said with a smile. Saving people? Saving who? Huang Ruming showed a face of joy. Save me first. However, you still need a little equipment. Sun Hao smiled slightly and took out the giant finger again. Through great magic power, he created the queen's helmet, earrings, necklace, scepter, and so on. Every item reached the level of the best innate holy treasure, which was simply terrifying. The brand new Huang Ruming stared blankly at the equipment on her body, and her whole person froze in place. It took her a long time to calm down. Young master, I have reached the peak of the Holy Emperor realm now? Huang Ruming asked. Not bad. Sun Hao nodded slightly. Thank you, young master. Huang Ruming threw herself into Sun Hao's arms with a gentle face. Young master, are we going to travel through time and space? Huang Ruming asked. Not bad. Sun Hao smiled slightly, pulled Huang Ruming, and disappeared in place. Time passed, and space changed. The two of them only felt that after a breath, they stopped. This is... Huang Ruming looked at the space in front of her, and her eyes widened. This is the battlefield of the demon ancestral realm. You go, I can't meet myself. Just save me. Remember, you can't stay too long. Also, don't tell him where you came from, don't tell him that I saved him in the future, otherwise, unexpected things will happen. Sun Hao pointed to himself, who was being bound by the sky demon, and said, Yes, young master. Huang Ruming nodded slightly, her face solemn. Not long after, Huang Ruming returned. She looked at Sun Hao, blushing, and lowered her head. Young master, Huang Ruming looked apologetic. Silly girl, don't worry, that's me too. I have experienced it with you once, and I remember everything clearly. Sun Hao looked at Huang Ruming with a smirk on his face. Young master, you are so bad. Huang Ruming blushed, shy and cute. Really? Then I can be a little worse. Look at my dragon claws. Sun Hao quickly rushed over to Huang Ruming. Huang Ruming screamed in fear. He dodged repeatedly. However, the scene described appeared above the void. At the entrance of the chaotic starfield, a great battle was about to begin. Sun Hao and Huang Ruming hid in the dark, watching all this quietly. Ruming, later, you choose an opportunity to save people, let them find out that they are all dead. Sun Hao said. Young master, I understand. Huang Rumeng nodded slightly with a cautious face. Will this Luo Luyan find out? Huang Rumeng showed a worried face. Don't worry, with the suppression of this giant finger, with her current strength, it is impossible to find out. Sun Hao said. Young master, look at me. Huang Rumeng looked cautious. They looked ahead, and their eyes did not move. Hu Daoist Lu Ya's mind moved, and the immortal beheading flying knife in his hand penetrated Venerable Qing Lian's eyebrows. Venerable Qing Lian's body slowly fell down. Until death, he had a smile on his face, and he died very peacefully. Young master, you can finally go in. After saying this, Venerable Qing Lian's body exploded, exploding into fine powder, completely disappearing. However, her body suddenly appeared in front of Huang Rumeng. Not dead. She looked up and happened to see Sun Hao. Suddenly, her pupils shrank, and her face changed drastically. She looked at Sun Hao and then at Sun Hao, who rushed to the entrance of the chaotic starfield, and couldn't help but widen her eyes. Young master! Xiaolian, I am from the future. After speaking, Sun Hao stretched out his finger and waved his right hand. A force poured into Venerable Qing Lian's body. The injuries on her body were rapidly recovering. Kacha, in the blink of an eye, the barrier covering her body shattered. At this moment, she reached the peak of the Holy Emperor realm. Young master, thank you! Venerable Qing Lian threw herself into Sun Hao's arms and cried loudly. That incomparably familiar feeling surged into Sun Hao's mind again. Xiaolian, then can you tell me everything? Sun Hao asked. Young master, you are the founding primordial spirit, you should know, right? Venerable Qing Lian asked. Sun Hao nodded. In fact, you are a strange stone born in the void space of the universe. After hundreds of millions of years, you finally gave birth to spiritual awareness, and I am a lotus flower growing next to you. Gradually, I also gave birth to spiritual awareness. In the boring years, you and I encouraged each other and worked hard to cultivate together. Finally, I cultivated a human form and can freely cross the universe. I have been to many worlds, and you met your lover, Lu Xiao. Speaking of this, Venerable Qing Lian cried sadly. Actually, you don't know, I also like you, and I have always loved you silently. But after you have a lover, I can only watch from a distance. Speaking of this, Venerable Qing Lian looked at Huang Rumeng, showing a look of envy. When Huang Rumeng heard this, her face was shocked. Then, she showed a smile and walked forward. Xiaolian, do you still like young master now? Yes. Venerable Qing Lian nodded heavily. Young master, what about you? Huang Rumeng asked. Me? Sun Hao looked startled and didn't know how to answer. Young master, you can answer according to your heart, I won't blame you. Huang Rumeng said. I like it. Sun Hao said. If Miss Xiaolian doesn't mind, let young master marry you together. Ah! Venerable Qing Lian was stunned, and her face was full of shame. How can this be? Huang Rumeng smiled slightly and whispered in Venerable Qing Lian's ear. Suddenly, Venerable Qing Lian's face turned red, and he quickly lowered his head. Young master, are you willing to marry me? Venerable Qing Lian summoned up his courage and asked. I agree. Under Huang Rumeng's strong request, Sun Hao had no choice but to agree. Young master. Venerable Qing Lian plunged into Sun Hao's arms, unwilling to let go for a long time. Huang Rumeng looked at this scene with a smile on her face. Suddenly, she raised her eyebrows and looked at the dark shadow in front of her, her face full of anger. She took a step, stretched out her scepter, and nodded. Buzz, a ray of light illuminated the entire void. She waved the scepter in her hand and blasted it at the dark taboo. Whoosh! A dazzling white light directly blasted at the dark taboo. Squeak! A strange cry resounded through the world. The dark taboo's body struggled wildly, as if it was suffering from endless pain. At this time, the power that imprisoned everyone disintegrated. Sun Hao, in time and space, was looking at Huang Rumeng, revealing a longing expression. "Young master, hurry!" Huang Rumeng shouted. She deliberately showed weakness, letting sweat roll down her forehead. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao's face changed drastically. Without any hesitation, he stepped forward and rushed into the entrance of the chaotic star field. "You dare!" The dark taboo spat out the human language and let out a roar. However, it was useless. "If you dare to escape, I will definitely kill them all." The threatening voice echoed between heaven and earth. However, it did not cause any impact. Sun Hao in time and space had disappeared. "Damn it!" The dark taboo's face was angry and resentful. Then, the corner of his mouth raised, revealing an unfathomable smile. "It's finally done. Now I just need to wait. As for you guys, then all become my power." The dark taboo's eyes swept and stared directly at Tao Ancestor Hong Jun and Taoist Luya. "Master, why are you looking at this old man like this?" Tao Ancestor Hong Jun looked uneasy. "Senior brother, what do you think?" Tao Ancestor Hong Jun waved his right hand, and a terrifying force quickly enveloped Tao Ancestor Hong Jun suddenly. His body quickly exploded. It had completely disappeared, and not a single trace was left. Taoist Luya looked at this scene, and his expression changed drastically. Without thinking about it, he used the immortal slaying flying knife and quickly attacked the dark taboo. However, boom, the 4 immortal slaying flying knives were fragile in front of the dark taboo. In an instant it collapsed and nothing was left. Boom! Taoist Luya could not escape either. His body exploded and disappeared on the spot. Such a scene directly scared the Heavenly Emperor, Buddha Tathagata, and the others to the point of trembling. They crawled on the ground and knelt in front of the dark taboo. "Master, we swear to follow you to the death, please spare our lives." However, these voices did not change the dark taboo's expression. "You have plundered too much power from the 3 realms. Now, it is your destiny to make some contributions." The dark taboo waved his right hand. Boom, their bodies exploded into blood mist one by one, and they died tragically on the spot. Even the bodies of the 100 million strong army exploded. Only the blood mist was left now. "Ha ha!" The dark taboo looked up to the sky and laughed crazily. Suddenly, she raised her eyebrows as if she had thought of something. She looked up, but she saw nothing. There was no sign of Huang Rumeng. "I want to see where you can escape to." The dark taboo released her divine will and shrouded the void. However, after searching for a long time, she did not find any traces. "You escaped quickly. Let's see where you can run when we meet in the future." The dark taboo looked at the 3 realms. A cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "This world has fallen and must be recondensed. The creatures created by this seat in the future will never be like this. That will be an absolutely perfect world. Destroy it for me." The dark taboo waved his right hand. The blood around him surged rapidly and quickly gathered together. Immediately afterward, a blood bead formed and floated in front of the dark taboo. "It's still a little short. Continue." The dark taboo opened his mouth and spat out a stream of blood, which quickly gushed out and was shrouded in the color of the blood bead. Soon after, the dark taboo stood up with a touch of joy on his face. "It's done, with it, I can go and seize a giant's hair. However, the 3 realms will be destroyed first." The dark taboo stretched out his finger and pointed forward. Soon, the 3 realms universe was changing rapidly. The speed of destruction was accelerating rapidly. At this rate, the 3 realms should be completely destroyed in less than 1,000 years. I should also be able to get the giant's hair. After speaking, the dark taboo quickly left and disappeared completely. Above the void not far from him. "Thank you, young master, for saving my life." The neat voice shook heaven and earth. Everyone looked at Sun Hao, showing a look of gratitude. Especially Tao Ancestor Hong Jun, Taoist Luya, and sect leader Tong Tian. They drooped their heads and regretted it. Plop, plop. The three of them knelt in front of Sun Hao, showing a crying expression. Master, this disciple is stupid. I listened to the words of villains, and violated your teachings. Please punish me. Dao Ancestor Hong Jun showed a tearful appearance. Master, please punish me. Sect leader Tong Tian said. Master, this disciple knows his mistake. Taoist Lu Ye opened his mouth, unable to defend himself. You all know your mistake, it's the greatest good. However, if there is a sin, there is a punishment. I will give you a chance to atone for your sins. Now, the three realms is about to be destroyed. You all bring people to rescue all the creatures immediately. Do you understand? Sun Hao looked at the three of them and said lightly. Yes, master. The few of them immediately stood up. Looking at the people in front of him, he opened his mouth to arrange. The Celestial Emperor's army, the Buddhist disciples, and the disciples of other major forces took action one after another. They rushed into all parts of the three realms and began to act. Even Sun Hao's army of hundreds of millions left quickly at this moment. After doing this, Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumring and took out a bead. Rumring, this is the world bead I created. There are countless planets in it. You will go to a place with me later. Sun Hao said. Okay. Huang Rumring nodded. Young master, I will go with you too. Venerable Qing Lian said. You need to take care of this place. In this space, the dark taboo is impossible to find. All the creatures they rescued are placed here. You are responsible for taking care of them. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. Venerable Qing Lian nodded. Whoosh, Sun Hao pulled Huang Rumring, stepped across the sky of time, and quickly left. This time, the place they came to was the chaotic star field. In the teleportation channel, Sun Hao, who was in space-time, was sleeping at this moment. Rumring, go and get all the creatures in his soul space into the world bead. Then, arrange some fake creatures for me. Sun Hao said. Yes. Under the operation of Huang Rumring, these were quickly completed. After Huang Rumring returned to his side, the two took the space bead and left quickly. Crossing time and space, soon, it came to the time when Sun Hao and the Dark Taboo were fighting. At the critical time, Huang Rumring took action and imprisoned the Dark Taboo. Sun Hao successfully merged thousands of great Tao. Then, Sun Hao traveled through time and space and disappeared. No, the Dark Taboo let out an unwilling roar. Want to run? How is this possible? Wherever you go, this seat will follow. After speaking, the Dark Taboo used the law of time and space to follow Sun Hao's footstep. All around, calm was restored. Seeing this scene, Huang Rumring couldn't help but widen her eyes. Young master, so it seems that the Dark Taboo is following us? Huang Rumring couldn't help but feel a burst of numbness in her scalp. Yes. Speaking of this, Sun Hao turned back, stretched out his right hand and grabbed forward. Buzz, the void trembled, constantly distorted and deformed. A figure was pulled out by Sun Hao. This person was none other than the Dark Taboo. Yu, she pointed at Sun Hao, her voice trembling. On her body, it was covered with finger-sized scars. An invisible force continued to wreak havoc on her wounds. It seemed that her injuries were extremely heavy. Do you have any last words? Sun Hao looked at the Dark Taboo and said faintly. The Dark Taboo opened her mouth, unable to speak. No matter how many kinds of unwillingness there were in her heart, at this moment she couldn't say a word. Did you arrange a method in the space-time passage? The Dark Taboo asked. I won't. Sun Hao smiled and shook his head. Blame yourself for being too conceited. Just using the law of time and space, you dare to travel through time and space. The Dark Taboo's face was pale, and her whole body slumped to the ground. At this moment, her means were exhausted. Coupled with serious injuries, how could she be Sun Hao's opponent? Is it over like this? The Dark Taboo muttered to herself, looking dispirited. The whole person looked as if he was about to age. Master, this disciple is unfilial, please give me a quick death. The dark taboo lay on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Sun Hao. Then, she closed her eyes and quietly waited for death. Swish, the light flashed and the head fell to the ground. The dark taboo's incarnation body turned into a giant python. After twitching a few times, there was no movement. Boom! There was an explosion, and it disappeared completely. At this point, the dark taboo died and no longer existed. Huang Rumming breathed a long sigh of relief, and threw herself into Sun Hao's arms, unwilling to let go for a long time. It's over, it's finally over, young master, we can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Huang Rumming said. No, it's not over. As soon as these words came out, Huang Rumming was directly shocked. We still have to rebuild the 3 realms, there are many things to do. Young master, your words are so scary. Then I will scare you even more. Young master, don't, Xiaoyan is not here. I want it. The figures of the 2 gradually went away. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was 10,000 years. After the efforts of everyone in the 3 realms, everything was restored to its original state. The entire 3 realms was a bustling scene. In front of Sun Hao stood countless big shots in the entire 3 realms. They looked at Sun Hao with faces full of reluctance. Young master, can't you stay in the 3 realms? The 3 realms needs you. Wen Renshi stared at Sun Hao blankly. Young master, without you, there will be no delicious food to eat in this world. Su Yiling stepped forward and gently pulled Sun Hao's arm. Young master, otherwise, let me follow you. Miss Yiling, this trip is full of danger. I can take care of the 4 of them, and that's the most I can do. Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumming, Venerable Qing Lian, Lu Xiao, and Xue Mei and said. Su Yiling opened her mouth and looked at the 4 women, showing a face of envy. Young master, we are your maids, take us with you. Azura 2 saints, Xiao Feng and Xiao Fun came forward and said with tears. No, you are too weak. Staying in the 3 realms to cultivate is the best policy. Sun Hao said. Then, Sun Wukong, 6-eared macaque, Ning Mingji, Mu Bing, Xianyuan Shi, Thunder Tribulation Lord. They stepped forward in turn and said goodbye to Sun Hao. Sun Hao glanced at these people and didn't find Qiansu. He couldn't help but sigh. He looked all over the 3 realms and didn't find where Qiansu was. It seemed that she really left him and didn't know where she went. Qiansu, no matter where you hide, I will find you. Sun Hao clenched his fists and thought secretly. Hong Jun, Grandmaster Tongtian, Lu Ye, I need you to take care of the 3 realms in the future. Sun Hao looked at Dao Ancestor Hong Jun, Grandmaster Tongtian, and Taoist Lu Ye and said, Disciple listens to Master's instructions. The 3 nodded heavily, showing a solemn expression. Waving goodbye to everyone, Sun Hao took the 4 women and quickly walked out of the 3 realms. Standing in the void, looking ahead, he showed a firm expression. Come out. Sun Hao said. Who? The air was distorted. 2 figures stood in front of Sun Hao in an instant. These 2 people were none other than Yu Jizi and Chu Yu. However, these 2 people were no longer an old man and a little lowly. Instead, they became a young man and woman. Chu Yu's memory had also been completely restored. Young master, there are too many people. I'm afraid you won't notice us, so we are waiting for you here. Yu Jizi said. How can you think of me as such a person? Sun Hao pretended to be angry. Yu Jizi scratched his head, showing a touch of embarrassment. What a fool! Chu Yu stepped forward and said, Young master, your great kindness, little you will always remember. This time, I wish you a pleasant journey, I hope you will come back to see us in the future. Chu Yu said. Thank you, I will. Sun Hao said with a clasped fist. Then, he showed a bad smile. You too, really don't want to manage the 3 realms? Young master, we have finally become human beings now, and we don't want to change back. The 2 were so scared that their faces changed slightly, and they waved their hands again and again. Hee, goodbye. Sun Hao looked ahead, waved his hand, and took the 4 women with him. His figure flashed and disappeared in place instantly. When they appeared again, they came to the depths of the universe. In front of them there were two giant corpses. "Young master, what are you doing?" Huang Ruming asked. "I only dug out half of this corpse, and it increased the overall strength of the three realms by 10,000 times. There are still so many left, we can't waste it. I have a feeling that when we dig out these two giant corpses, we can travel in the real void of the universe." Sun Hao said. "Okay, young master, look at me. Sister Ruming, wait for me. Sister Shao don't run so fast. And me." The four women quickly rushed towards the giant's corpse. Sun Hao looked at the backs of the four people, smiled slightly, and was about to move. "Young master." At this moment, a shout went straight into his mind. Looking back, his pupils contracted and his face changed slightly. He saw. A figure was approaching at high speed. This man had silver hair and held half a hatchet in his hand. Who was he if not Chen Daoming? He stroked his silver hair and showed a confident smile. "Young master, what do you think of my strength?" Sun Hao glanced at Chen Daoming, and couldn't help but widen his eyes. My goodness, Chen Daoming's strength was not weaker than his own. Didn't he go to the source of sin? He also went to look for it, but he didn't find anything. Unexpectedly, he came out now. "What have you experienced these years?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, it's a long story. I'm really sorry that I couldn't help you when you dealt with the dark taboo. However, if you want to conquer the universe, how can I be left out?" After speaking, Chen Dao waved his long knife, aimed at the void, and slashed. Buzz, the light flashed away. The intact giant in the distance was cut in half. "Young master, let's compete and see who gets more energy." "Let's compete." Sun Hao smiled slightly, his figure flickered, and he left quickly. "Young master, you can't do this, you're cheating." Outside the three realms, on a certain life planet, on a mountain peak. This mountain peak was dense with clouds and mist, surrounded by colorful light. It looked like a fairyland, very fascinating. In front of a pavilion, a woman in black touched her round belly with a smile on her face. "Baby, you have been in your mother's belly for 10,000 years, why haven't you come out yet?" This woman in black was none other than Qian Su. "Boss, I'm not talking about you." At this time, Han Xing came forward, holding a bowl in his hand, which was boiling various tonics. "Why don't you stay by the young master's side? You are pregnant, why don't you let the young master know? You have to hide in such a place, worrying all day long." Han Xing complained. "Han Xing, how many times have I told you, I am not fated with the young master. There are so many people serving him, and each of them is far better than me. I can cultivate with the young master once, and I have no regrets in this life. In this life, when he comes out, I will take him with me." Speaking of this, Qian Su's face suddenly changed drastically. "Ah, it hurts, it hurts. Come on, hurry, it's going to be born." Then, a group of maids and midwives came quickly and brought Qian Su back to the room. A baby's cry resounded throughout the valley. The story we told, writing here, is about to end. And the story of Sun Hao and the others is about to end? No, it's just the beginning. P.S. It's not easy to write until here. Because there are too few people to follow, I can't persist. However, I still want to thank the book friends who read with me. Thank you. The new book is brewing, and I don't know when it will be officially available to everyone. This book is really not long to write in the imagination. The next book is still a real fantasy book. The dragon god will seriously build a world. Seriously build a story. After writing books for so long, at this stage, I have reached the shackles. I feel that writing books is more and more difficult, and there are too many things to pay attention to. The dragon god will sum up the past and strive to write the story in my heart in the next book. Thank you for your support.